Hey, hello, and welcome to Five Old Fogies Are Angry live stream. We're here to discuss the executive orders that Donald Trump has put out, dealing with HBCUs, K through 12 educational standards, and for higher education accreditation. So I am Desperado Sensei, and I do things like farming and education. And I will let the our other what is it fogies introduce themselves. So we'll start off with Jack. Go ahead, Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack. I pretty much cover everything because I'm a nerd and cover everything. But today we're going to be covering the executive orders of the one from January and the other two from April 23rd. And let's just say they are absolutely terrifying. And I hope you have your coffee ready.
And we'll pass the torch over to you, Ancom.
And I am Ancom SciComm, or Ancom for short. I cover science, technology, and whatever else happens to, strike my fancy at any particular time.
All right, Jack, take it away.
Okay, so I was reading through the executive order page the other day and ran across one in January that somehow escaped my fucking notice. I don't know how the fuck this thing was signed on January 29th, and I didn't notice it. The only thing I could think of is that it was buried in all the other fuckery that was going on that early in this administration. But that's the longest of the ones we're going to be talking about today, and it is ending radical indoctrination in K through 12 schooling. And we're going to read this through for you guys today, but let's just say, if my German was better, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between this and what the Chancellor of Germany put in place in 1932.
Yeah.
So, did you guys get the chance to read through the executive order last night?
I did. I got to read through a good portion of it, and it was alarming, very alarming.
Yeah. We'll get to section 4 later, but that was the one that kept me up until like 4 a.m. last night. Like literally, for those of you who watch the VOD and the goddamn shocker if there's somebody in chat, this actually kept me up at night.
Zephyr's in chat.
That's how. Hey, Zephyr, how's it going, bud? Yeah, this one actually kept me up last night because this one is that level of scary. I have not seen an executive order like this in a first world country, like of any type, in over 40 years. And the last one to do it was France, and that was when they were facing some pretty severe riots. Like they actually like had like something happening that they had to do like this kind of like craziness to. This is literally them fighting a culture war of things they don't like. And everything they don't like has now been labeled anti-American and subversive, according to this bill, essentially. And we are to teach a whitewashed version of history that does not teach any of our faults, any of our negatives, any of the diversity, any of the like horrors that our government have performed. All of that is now deemed un-American. Subversive, just to teach history as it is. Like, I can remove my personal judgment from it and just teach the facts, and I would now be in violation of this executive order.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. So, Ancom, do you have anything to add before we start reading this crap?
Nothing right now. Y'all have pretty much covered it.
Okay, so because I can't stomach actually reading the first sentence of any of these executive orders, I'm just going to skip that part. It is hereby ordered, Section 1, Purpose of Policy, Parents trust American schools to provide their children with a rigorous education and to instill a patriotic admiration for our incredible nation and the values for which we stand. In recent years, however, parents have witnessed schools indoctrinate their children in radical anti-American ideologies while deliberately blocking parental oversight. Such an environment operates as an echo chamber in which students are forced to accept these ideologies without question or critical examination. In many cases, innocent children are compelled to adopt identities as either victims or oppressors solely based on their skin color or other immutable characteristics. In other instances, young men and women are made to question whether or not they are born in the wrong body and whether to view their parents and the reality as enemies to be blamed. These practices not only erode critical thinking, but also sow division, confusion, distrust, which undermine the very foundation of personal identity and family unity. Okay, let's break this down.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go right to the end here because the rest of it's just, let's be honest, the culture war shit we've all heard a bunch of fucking times, which undermines the very foundations of personal identity and family unity. This comes from this hyper fixation of this current administration on the nuclear family's importance and how essentially the rights of the family supersede any consent of anyone within that family. This is going back to like 1600s era, like fundamentalist type shit. This is insanely like pointed in its language specifically because it is pointed and vague at the same time. What does family unity mean? This is not a particular definition that is ascribed legally in any capacity. And the few times I'm able to find a few examples of this in like the precedent law, it is literally talking about the family unity that we were expressing around Branch Davidian. For those of you who don't know it by that name, Waco, Texas, and the cult therein. This is usually a phrase that, when legally described, is describing the behaviors of a cult, not actual family activities. That's terrifying that this is what these people believe that a natural and cohesive family unit is that it should be modeled on that of a cult. Because I guarantee you it wasn't Trump who wrote this shit, it was a lawyer, and Trump just signed it. Because there's too many things in here that are very, very carefully worded, and he's not that fucking smart.
Yep.
God, I'm just going to end up rambling after each reading, aren't I?
No, I was just,
we all have the same thoughts.
I was literally just checking something with the stream, and I
No, I know. I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah.
I just give you shit. Because, don't get me wrong, as you know, I could talk about this till my voice goes out, so I'm only pausing to make sure I'm polite to you two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it says right there, in many cases, innocent children are compelled to adopt identities of either victims or oppressors solely based on their skin color and other immutable characteristics. That's
it's nonsense. Well, okay. It is nonsense to anybody who has been taking like account into what's going on in the schools. Because don't get me wrong, I am very, very left-leaning. I have had a problem with our public school system for many, 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 many years before this. Right or left, didn't fucking matter. This isn't me defending Biden.
No.
But this is a culture war narrative that I wasn't able to track the actual instigating like party in place, but the earliest I was able to find this particular narrative was on Fox and Friends almost a decade ago.
Yeah,
and it's the anti-trans shit.
Yep.
Now I'm not going to say it was definitely them because there was a bunch of people saying it pretty much on the same day, within minutes of each other. I'm guessing it started somewhere further back that I have just not found or no, it no longer exists. Like maybe it was on some 4chan board that got nuked or some nonsense like that. But at least as far back as I was able to trace it, it was on Fox and Friends about 2016, 2017. And it was because, let's be honest, that's when the majority of Americans who had never thought about this outside of a fucking John Hughes movie were made aware of the transgender population within America.
Yep. This is really weird. It's saying my stream is not connected, but I feel like I'm online.
Yeah, let me go check real quick. Because OBS was doing that to me last week on Dante. Nope, we're live because it's just saying me. Let me go check. So we're good.
I just wanted to make sure because I didn't want us to be just talking.
Hey, we ran a whole goddamn episode of fucking Dante doing that. So yeah, it's a logical thing to be worried about.
Yep.
Goddamn episode. Okay, so now got too many damn windows open. Okay, so now going back to the bill, I'm guessing you still have it up on the screen for them or not. I don't know. Barbara, stop whining. We just came inside. Okay, come on. Down. You're gonna hurt yourself. Stop it. Crazy damn dog. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I don't know. Let's see. It didn't see you bring the bill up on screen when I scrolled back through the video. So I don't know if you forgot to hit transition while we were reading, so the audience should see what we're reading.
I didn't have anything like transitioned or anything for that in place.
Okay.
It's just been us talking. Do you want?
Well,
you can put it up.
Well, no. I was going to say, because you have the OBS running this time, you'd be able to capture it better than trying to capture it from Discord, because Discord, the resolution drops. That's why I was going to just have you grab it. That's why I shared the board with you. Because that way you can pop it up and down as we need it.
Sure.
Because it's not going to need to be on screen at all times. And it's normally what I do on Dante, except for I window stuff into Chirons.
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll get that set up real quick.
Yeah. So, Ancom, I know you're still waking up and all that shit too, but like when you hear this particular opening paragraph, what is it that brings to your mind as somebody who, like myself, falls into some of these categories that it is identified with these children?
Yeah, I'm going with this is bullshit. Mainly because I've seen what the education system looks like, and I wish it was more like this. Let's put it that way. Like, this is another one of those cases where the thing that they are accusing of happening is the thing I wish were happening. It's not, but I wish it were.
I wouldn't go that far, but that's why we're different types of communists. But I'm with you. I get you. I get you.
Obviously, I'm being a little hyperbolic. Obviously, I don't want, as they quote, innocent children to be compelled to adopt identities as victims or oppressors based solely on their skin color, because it's more complicated than that. But understanding the social dynamics at play and teaching children, how the history of this country and has influenced the social relations and how that affects them even at a young age, not a terrible idea. They obviously overhype what's happening and make it sound far scarier. But the thing is, like, most of what they're saying here doesn't happen even in the watered down version that I'm advocating for. So they're using false pretexts to do whatever crazy shit they want to, because that has been the entire MO of this administration.
Oh, I know. The reason I laugh is because, like, we all have to have a bit of gallows humor about this, because otherwise we'd be fucking crying about this shit constantly. It's absolutely fucking frustrating.
Also, just real quick, okay, so I see it now there. I'm on your Miro, and it's completely blank for me. I don't know why.
Try refreshing?
I have a couple times.
Let me try.
It's not showing. It's not showing you in like the guests thing. Try sharing it again real quick.
Yeah. Let me give you a new link. See if maybe. Anyone. Viewer, copy clipboard link. Yeah, that's weird, because I know Despy was able to see it, unless there's like a cap, which would be fucking annoying.
Yeah, like, the board itself looks blank, but I do see where your cursor is on the screen, so that's weird.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is relaunch it and see if maybe it was just an error because I had just linked it to you.
Nope.
If not,
new link. Oh well.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to find what's the exact name of this one you're reading, because I found the others.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a link to it real quick. Okay. Open. Cut.
Leftist live streams, folks.
Woohoo!
Well, for first live streams.
I mean both.
But that's the one we're reading currently.
Okay, thank you.
So, this
is an old one. Okay,
this is the one. That's how I started. Somehow this passed my fucking notice in January. This was signed a week after he fucking got in office.
I gotcha. Okay, I thought we were going for more recent ones. I didn't realize this.
This is because this is a trio of bills that go everything from K to higher education. So like, and it's all the same bullshit. But since they're still catching up, I'll read the second paragraph, because this one we won't have as much to talk about. We'll be moving on quickly. So, imprinting anti-American, subversive, harmful, and false ideologies on our nation's children not only violates long-standing anti-discrimination civil rights law in many cases, but usurps basic parental authority. For example, steering students towards surgical and chemical mutilation. Fuck you prick. Without parental consent or involvement, or allowing male access to private spaces designated for female, may contravene federal laws that protect parental rights, including the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or the FERPA, and the protections of the Pupil Rights Acts, the PPRA, and sexual-based equality and opportunity, including Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, similarly demanding acquiescence to white privilege or unconscious bias actually promotes racial discrimination and undermines national unity. Okay, so this one's going to be quick. No. Really, no other comments is needed.
Yeah.
I have one additional comment, which is remember, every accusation is an admission. That's all you need to know in this particular.
Yeah, it's oh my god.
Yo. I mean,
okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with Title IX and the things that I just mentioned, nothing that is listed, even in their fucking harebrained fucking fantasy world telling of this, would even meet the criteria of the laws they're talking about. So let's just say it was true what they're saying. It would not meet the threshold for any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But go on. Oh God, these people are so far fucking divorced from reality. But that's kind of the point.
Not to mention, like we're talking about like extreme fringe sort of things at the same time. Like we're talking about, we're first of all, let's make it a point to say that when we're talking about like surgical and chemical mutilation without parental consent, that's like never happened unless it's self-inflicted. Like let's
put it this way: the only case I know of where parental consent was completely bypassed for a chemical transition, not a surgical transition, but a chemical. There's been one case, and it wasn't in our fucking country. It was in fucking Finland,
right? But like when we're talking about this, we look at the number of trans people as a whole compared to the entire like population. It is like it's a fraction of a percent. And then
I'll be honest. I'll give the highest estimates because we're still in that underreporting era.
Yeah.
1.8% is about the highest it is estimated to be, based on like p-values in the 10,000 range of like estimating through like meta-analysis of medical records and shit like that. But yes, less than 2% of the population at most.
Okay.
At most.
So the other thing to take a look at this as well is like the number of actual like quote unquote surgeries that are actually happening. Like some of them don't even top like 100 for like the entire United States. And that's just for top surgery. And when you're talking about minors, there is no minor anywhere getting bottom surgery.
Well, no. Let's be fair. There have been certain cases where it has been done for minors. It has never been done for anybody under the age of 16, and has never been done without parental and medical consent by doctors, like the parents and the doctors were both involved. So it has happened twice in 20 years. And
Which
both of these people
are the order from the president to make sure that nobody else ever does it.
Well, and the two cases in question are the primers that are not the primers, the primers used for the most extreme version of the case. These were I don't know their names because it's been redacted because they were minors. But these were the who were used as examples who were so distraught by their gender dysphoria that reassignment was the only way to prevent suicidality. 2 cases in 20 years. Like, so, like, even the most extreme cases, we've had less than fucking 1/10 of one case a year.
Yeah. So.
All right. So I do want to, I don't normally do the whole devil's advocate thing. I just want to point out here that the wording of this is, the example they're giving is steering students toward these things without parental consent, which is not quite the same thing as saying it is happening without parental consent. Though most people, when reading this, for the few who will read it, would be forgiven for interpreting it that way. I don't think that's how I'm reading it.
No, they made it this vague intentionally for that reason, so that they can go after anybody for even talking about it. No, you're right.
Yeah. So I just wanted, the steering is being done without parental consent or involvement. Basically, he's saying teachers are transing your students without, or teachers are transing your kids without your input, which is just blatantly not happening. But also, teachers talking about the reality of the world does not violate any of the laws mentioned or any other law of which I am aware.
Now, unfortunately, I have to. This is not even playing devil's advocate. This is just me going, I've seen jackasses on TikTok. Is there a chance that one jackass somewhere in the country is trying to do the shit that these people are accusing them of? Yeah. Let's be honest. There's crazy people in every community, Ancom. But let's just be fair. Like,
fair enough. It's certainly
but
nowhere
as
near
far
the
as
norm.
but as far as I've been able to find, nobody has ever been charged or convicted or even accused of this in a legal proceeding. They've been accused of it in the court of public opinion constantly.
Yeah.
But I've not been able to, and I was on Westlaw all fucking night until I fucking finally went to sleep. I was unable to find a single case where even a charge was laid like this. So if it's happening, this has to be so exceedingly rare that these motherfuckers like end up like just pleading guilty somewhere along the line and to avoid this charge on their record. Because I can't find it anywhere, and I looked for hours. So I'll give them the credit, because let's be honest, Ancom, we're both communists. How many crazy communists have we seen?
So many.
Yeah. Every community has their nut bars. I have the sneaking suspicion, though, with teachers' unions, the whole fact that like gainful employment by like state entities is a pain in the dick, even in the best of times. I have the sneaking suspicion, if it's happening, it's 1 in a million. And I'll give them that, because there's crazies in every community.
Mm-hmm.
And we do need to protect from that. This doesn't protect from that. This doesn't even come close to protecting from that. Because what this does is turn things into a black market situation, which encourages that.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's like the assholes who are like, oh, we're going to make everything illegal on the illicit drug side. Okay, yeah, there's a few of them I agree need to be 100% illegal. How well has that worked out for you, assholes? We've been doing the war on drugs since the 80s. How's it working?
Yeah, I mean, well, didn't Nixon have like a war on drugs initiative sort of thing as well too?
Yeah, but not in the same way.
Yeah, I
had
know.
a similar name. Yeah. No, it had a similar name, but it was combating the import of.
Yeah.
Because Nixon didn't really give a shit about homegrown drugs. And I don't mean this as he didn't care, because he was fucking absolutely a dickhead who wouldn't give it a shit. Yeah. But I mean, like, it was not part of his policy agenda.
Right.
He was mainly trying to stop the illicit drugs coming in. And, okay, I mean, that's kind of part of his job. I mean, it's not the same as what we call the war on drugs now, which is a war on American citizens. Like, he was actually, like, taking it where it was meant to be. And this is not me praising Nixon because I like him. He's a piece of shit. But he went after the distributors, which is, if you really want to combat the drug war, that's how you have to do it. You don't combat the end user.
Yeah. Well,
so he was doing it the right way, at least, even if for the wrong reasons.
Right. Like you were saying, basically, anytime you take and regulate. I don't want to say regulate something. The second you take and you make something illegal, you immediately create a black market for that item. It doesn't matter what it is, because
and even regulating. Because be fair, your first word is right. Even regulating creates black and gray markets. This is, and I'm pro regulation. So this isn't me like going, oh my god, fuck regulations. It's just you have to admit their faults, and this is one of them.
Yep.
When you regulate something, when you get the highly libertarian, left or right, you will get the people who are like, no, fuck you, fuck your market, fuck your taxes, I'm going to do it my way.
Yep.
So
this
is true.
Restricting access to any product with demand will create a black market. If you want to reduce the consumption of a product, you have to find a way to reduce the demand, not the supply.
Yeah.
Well, and this is, by the way, and I apologize for any trans individuals in our audience who end up watching this. This is just kind of playing into what they want, because it's treating this as if it is some kind of social contagion that can be propagated in this way. But at the same time, even taking it at face value that they're right, which we know they're not, but even this doesn't solve the problem that they think it solves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, even if they were right, they're fucking wrong to do this.
Jack, your camera's messing up again.
Okay, I'll fix it real quick.
Yeah, like targeting federal funding to schools just because, and I'm going a little bit beyond their stated shit here because that's what they're actually targeting, is the idea that teachers might talk about trans people in anything but a completely demonizing, vilifying light. Cutting federal funding for that is not going to resolve this issue in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Like, it's people are still going to talk about the reality of the world around them, and ultimately what this is going to do is hurt schools, hurt education, and ultimately make more stupid people in the world, which is kind of their actual goal. It just happens that demonizing trans people and any suggestion that trans people are anything but normal, natural human people, it's was that frosting on the cake for them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very true. I have a feeling that the term that they'd probably use is they'd want to label trans individuals as degenerate more than anything is how they want society to view them.
I mean, that's quite literally how this started way back.
Yep.
Was
Remember,
them labeling what's her name? Go ahead.
Remember, kids, degenerate was a word used originally in eugenics.
Yep.
Okay, I wouldn't say that. We've had other cases of it besides that, but I'm with you in general. Because it does predate the eugenics thing. Originally, degenerate was used to describe more brigandry than necessarily anything to do with like sexuality or sexual behavior. It was usually more to do with you were a degenerate gambler, you were a degenerate thief.
Mm-hmm.
Had less to do with
enough.
eugenics at that point. But I will clarify centuries earlier.
The modern usage that you tend to hear of the word degenerate has its origins with the eugenics movement.
Yes, no, that I'll agree with, but
yep.
You know me, I have to be fair.
That's totally fair. I did the same thing with this EO language, right? I want to make sure that we're not incorrectly portraying these things, and yeah, occasionally I will make those mistakes, and I appreciate the correction.
Well, no, it's like I have my biases, and I'm going to lay them bare, but I'm also going to go, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, it's possible. The audience needs to see that, because like that's the thing, audience. I don't want to lie to you. I can be wrong, and if I'm wrong, tell me, because I'd rather not continue to be wrong. There's something that happened in the background before we got into this about a different video we're working on that I went did research. I had ChatGPT do its own secondary research as well. And I found out that basically I had bought into a bunch of bullshit. And I had to stop using that talking point. I would rather not be wrong. So if we're wrong, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're doing the same thing here as best as our ability, because every human has their bias and their blind spots, and we're no different than anybody else. So if one of you would like to pick up the reading, we're at the my administration paragraph just above section 2.
Okay.
That's where we left off.
Do you want to get that, Ancom, or do you want me to get that?
Yeah, I'll take it, because it's getting into like legalistic shit. So,
Yep.
My administration will enforce the law to ensure that recipients of federal funds providing K-12 education comply with all applicable laws prohibiting discrimination in various contexts and protecting parental rights, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 42 U.S.C. 2000D, et sec. I'm not actually sure how you're. Anyways, Title 9, 20 U.S.C. 1681 et sec. FERPA 20 U.S.C. 1232G and PPRA 20 U.S.C. 1232H. These are all just,
I forget the line, but I think it's et sequitur, which means end in law. It's
yeah, and all. Oh, et sequitur would be basically end everything that follows. So 2000D and the rest of that. So anyways, and then we get into a bunch of definitions that I don't really think we need to go through because
no, we absolutely do, because they hide little nuggets in these. There's a reason I didn't cut anything out, because first of all, we do need to show all of it, because we never want to be accused of essentially clip chimping shit. And second of all, these pricks are insidious and they hide little nuggets everywhere.
All right.
Can you move your cursor, Jack?
Oh, I didn't realize that you were on my screen.
No,
I forgot that I forgot the cursor came through.
Yep.
All right. Section 2 definitions as used herein. The definitions in the executive order, quote, defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government, January 20, 2025, shall apply to this order. Just as a quick reminder, that's the one where they define sex based on the gametes produced at conception. And in case anyone is not familiar with this very basic fact about biology, at conception, it's called... embryo is the embryo is the single-celled one? Embryo or zygote.
At conception, we would be the blastocyst, and then it becomes the zygote, the embryo. But immaterial. But here's the thing: I could make this much quicker for you. Gamete selection is not determined until many, 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 many weeks later.
Yeah. So you cannot take a fertilized egg and say this is going to produce this gamete or this gamete, because it hasn't happened yet. You can make predictions, but as anyone who knows about human biology will likely know, those predictions can sometimes be wrong because biology is messy. You cannot just look at a string of DNA and say with 100% certainty this will happen, because it's not that clear cut.
Well, no, I'll disagree with you on that. Technically, if we do look at the entire gene sequence of that particular DNA strand, we could. The problem is that's not what we do. That is not the standard practice for IVF. They do a standard, I forget the term where they put the sperm in artificially, but they do a particular word for the practice. I don't care, but they do, because insemination is when it's put into the woman. This is actually like one of the lab practices, and it's just bugging me because I don't remember it right now. But when they're doing this, if we were to take that DNA code and run it through the gene sequencing, which, by the way, takes a while. It's not like we could do this shit in seconds, even with our modern computing. We could technically figure out what sex they will present as. But that level of genetic testing is extremely expensive.
And that's assuming there are no major mutations early on.
that have never been mapped before, etc.
Yeah, exactly, because we don't do genetic testing on fertilized eggs. Most of the time, We don't have the ability to do that. Not to mention, genetic testing requires that you destroy the cell in which that genome is present. So you can't do that on a fertilized egg, because then you would no longer have that egg. You have to do that at
you
some
can
point
at certain stages. Yeah, you can't do it at the exact moment of insemination.
Yeah.
No.
So you'd have to pick out a cell a few divisions down the road in order to be able to do that. And at this early on, some mutation could happen because the process by which genes are replicated in cell division is not perfect, and those mutations can and do happen. So you can have
happen. Not can and do. Will. Not
Fair
can
enough.
and do.
You can
happen every single human. Every single human has a minimum of 128 mutations different between them. And that's true of identical fucking twins, people. You know very little about genetics from what you learned in high school biology. Trust me, it's wild the shit you learn.
Yeah. I was trying to say can and do, just I tend to avoid absolutes like will. But anyway.
Well, no, but this is one of those things that anything that reproduces through sexual reproduction of combining, the only thing that this does not happen in at this rate is parthenogenesis.
Hey, Rich,
that is how common to life this is. Welcome in there, Rich.
Hey, Rich. Hey. So anyway,
we're just getting into definitions. So go ahead.
Yeah. Just to recap this first definition, this is the whole,
everybody's a woman.
Women are the sex that produces the large gamete at conception. Males are the sex that produces the small gamete at conception, when there is no human who has ever produced a gamete at conception. Simple as that.
It is a physical impossibility. This is the executive order that, if you don't follow it as readily as we do, chat, this is the executive order that everybody on the news programs was joking about made everybody a woman.
Yeah.
Well, because it makes no sense.
Not even a woman. Not even a woman. Yeah. It makes them all neuter, right?
Well, but that's because the people on the news programs are operating off of a quote. And everybody in this chat knows the quote because it comes from one of the greatest movies ever made. But I want to smack the writer who put this fucking line in it. All vertebrate embryos are inherently female at conception. Thank you, Jurassic Park.
Yeah. One of the big disservices that Jurassic Park did to science education.
So many other things it did great. I'll give it this one.
Yeah. It did many things so fucking well. This one line, unfortunately, fucked it up. Anyways, okay. On to definition B.
Oh, and Rich, just so you know, we're on the K through 12. We're not sharing it in here. Rich, Despy has it up. Let me give you the link real quick.
Yeah, this is the one that was done on January 29th, ending radical indoctrination in K through 12 schooling. All right. Anyways, definition B. Discriminatory equity ideology means an ideology that treats individuals as members of preferred or disfavored groups rather than as individuals, and minimizes agency, merit, and capability in favor of immoral generalizations. I love this because this is one of those things that feels very like an accusation that is a confession.
Oh yeah, this is 100% projection because immoral generalizations. We're not doing immoral generalizations because nobody in our side is saying that one race, color, sex, or national origin are morally or inherently superior to members of another. We're not saying an individual by virtue. We're not saying any of this shit. Well, what the fuck are they on about?
And here's another thing.
I do want to clarify. There are some extremists on our side that'll say things like all men are trash, right?
Hyperbolic shit. I'll forgo because most of those same people have a husband. Most of those same people, like Okay, yeah, obviously not. You don't mean all. You mean just all in the general because you speak in general colloquialisms, and it makes my job harder.
So,
But yeah, like it's not the same. And Despy, we're getting hit by the delay. I think. What were you gonna say?
what I was gonna say is this is also a way that they're trying to co-opt different things that they use. So they're trying to change DEI from diversity, equity, and inclusion to mean discriminatory equity ideology instead of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh.
This is a literal usage of those terms there.
Change of the
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
I've noticed
I
one of the
missed-
things that's excluded, the A, because we all, even you just did it to a point. Because people forget it's not DEI, it's DEIA. Because part of that's about the people with ability issues.
Right.
Like,
But
everyone forgets that.
Yeah, but no, but what I'm trying to go at with this is that they're trying to take diversity, equity, and inclusion and completely reframe it to mean discriminatory equity ideology.
Yeah, it's a parody.
Yeah.
It's a Douglas Adams nightmare parody.
Yep.
This is the Vogons at work.
Yeah. Now, with regards to the DEIA thing, I can't even really blame Trump for that because that was a shortening from DEIA to just DEI that was happening long before.
Yeah,
Trump
it happened under Clinton. I'm not blaming Trump for it. I'm blaming all of us for allowing us to forget about the disabled people. That was me taking accountability for allowing that shit to go for so long as well, because I did. I was 100% guilty of it until recently.
Honestly, I didn't even know about it until I watched part of the Sam Cedar thing on.
That's when most Americans learned about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I did not realize there was an A on that until I heard him talk about it, and then I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
And I forgot about it. And Rich did because you debate this stuff, because you're a debate coach. Did you guys remember to use it on a regular basis when these things would come up? Because I just remember the A just kind of disappearing in the 90s.
We don't refer to it as DEI even. Like, we refer to it as, inclusion programs. So, at least
you were better than the rest of us.
One of the things
did your mentions of it... Like, did your usage of it make mention of the... I can't remember if the A is...
Oh, yeah, ableism is a big thing in debate. Yeah,
okay.
It's something we talk about a lot, but it's also... I'm trying to think, there's a fourth thing, too, that actually comes up. That's not part of the terminology or whatever of DEI, but constantly is coming up in debate. But anyway, yeah.
Well, like I said, at least you guys are better than we were on it. You may have removed the A, but you said inclusion programs, which at least is better than what the rest of us did.
Yeah.
Okay. So these sub-definitions, as I read
where they hide
them,
shit.
Yeah, yep. just think about the kind of language that the conservatives of past and present have typically used, and realize how much of this is self-description. Members of one race, color, sex, or national origin are morally or inherently superior to members of another race, color, sex, or national origin.
Well, don't forget.
No, I'm just reading. I'm reading from the definitions they give in this.
Yeah, don't forget that in the government, what they're calling DEI also includes programs to give veterans jobs.
Yep.
That's part of the diversity part, right? Is that there's not enough veterans, and there's too much veteran unemployment. So all these people that are getting fired because they were hired under that program, that includes veterans who got their job because they're veterans.
Yep.
Some estimates, because the final numbers aren't out yet, obviously, but some estimates are as high as 20% of the federal employees let go during this were veterans.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing that was absolutely like the most horrifying thing is that the majority of people that work the crisis hotlines for the VA were all like veterans that ran this crisis line, and the Trump administration, well, Doge, I should say, fired all of them. Like there was literally nobody to answer the phone.
Not just Doge. We can blame Trump with this one too, because
Yeah.
not only did Doge do their shit, Trump defunded them through executive order as well.
So not only did they fire veterans working jobs for veterans to assist other veterans, now the veterans that are having problems can't even call somebody to talk about the problems that they're having.
Yeah, it's. There's a lot that goes into this. Here's the thing. Me and Ancom both probably have the same instinct of why does a measly 5% of the population make up 20% of the federal workforce? Knee jerk when we hear these numbers. But at the same time, this is bullshit. Like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, I can quibble over the policy decisions of like who got hired another day. At least they were able to be fucking hired.
Yeah.
Like this is bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. Definition B2: an individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. Definition
that's
B3.
one of those sneaky ones they put in there because or unconsciously. Well, that's the whole basis of systemic racism.
Yeah.
So now,
they're literally saying systemic racism can't exist according to their the idea.
No, it's un-American. It's un-American. It's not that it can't exist. It's un-American.
Yeah, or rather that the idea of systemic discrimination is itself discriminatory.
Yep, which is another thing they said earlier. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah. It's fucking it's nonsense all the way through. Turtles all the way down, as the expression goes.
Although it's
definition
interesting
B3
because it assumes that discrimination is bad, which is something they don't generally admit.
Well, because remember, they think that they are an oppressed minority despite being 58% of the fucking population of believers and all the other. You got to remember, we're dealing with the persecution complex divine command theory, jackasses.
But they also
and actually, well, Rich, that's the thing is this is a what is the word I'm looking for? Recuperation of the. No, it's a recuperation of the idea that discrimination is bad. They're trying to throw it back at the left,
right,
using the left's own language as an attack. So they don't have to believe that discrimination is bad. They just have to use all the buzzwords to make the people who assume or who think that discrimination is bad dislike all the shit that they're talking about here.
No, I know that that's the attempt, right? But because they're doing that sort of verbal judo, it means that lawyers have an opportunity to do the same thing, right? So now they're using these words that they wouldn't have admitted of before, and now lawyers get to say, aha, now you've set the precedent that discrimination is bad, or you've set the precedent that that you're victims, right? When on the other side of the mouth, you're saying there's no such thing as a victim. The concept of victimhood is victim culture, and that's liberal bullshit or whatever. But also, you're a victim.
Well, no, and I'm with you on that. But
they're contradicting themselves so hard.
Well, but I think that they're doing that, and you're not wrong. But I think that they're doing that because they have to. Because they're having to reference the already on the books laws that they're modifying with this executive order, and therefore have to operate within the nomenclature of that laws. So I can't be certain, but I think it's likely that they were hamstrung into doing this by the wordings of those laws, like Title IX, etc. And this was their only way to do it and feel okay about it and still feel like they're the oppressed minority as they literally are the majority in the country. It's fucking nonsense.
Yeah. No, I understand. I agree. I just think that this is a potential weapon to be used back against them.
No, I agree. I'm looking through this, and remember we were doing the deep research thing with GPT. I'm
Right.
thinking about later when I don't have so much like RAM being used, feeding this into the deep research and seeing if GPT can tell me which law firm wrote it, because this is definitely not Trump. This is not Bondi, because I've read Bondi's brief. She doesn't write like this.
No, this
Right.
will be White House counsel writing most of this.
I know,
Like,
but I want to
those
know
guys
who.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of White House probably hired via the Heritage Foundation. Like,
Yeah, but I want to know who, because this seems well crafted. As absolutely Orwellian nightmare fuel as this is extremely well worded. This cuts a lot of loopholes that we would normally have access to within shit like this when Trump's team usually gets a hold of it. This wasn't him, and therefore I want to know who, because I want to know who to fucking blame.
Yeah.
yeah, well, my guess is this had been written years before. Like,
Oh yeah,
someone had a
it
draft
landed
of
a
this-
week. It landed a week after he got
Yeah.
inaugurated.
Yeah, like, I don't even think this was written after the election. I think that this was a draft sitting on someone's computer for a few years, waiting
Yep, which
for
means I'll be
Trump
able to
come
find
back
the
on.
law firm, which means I'll be able to find the law firm because they were working for somebody writing other shit like this, and that's why
Yep.
I say I want to know who the fuck what law firm did this, because there's idiosyncrasies even in this highly legalese shit. I could see patterns, but I don't necessarily know what those patterns mean. Maybe the computer can help.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Definition B3.
I
An
can still hear you
individual-
with the pup.
An individual's moral character or status as privileged, oppressing, or oppressed is primarily determined by the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin. Which, honestly, like, it is hilarious to me that they're using this definition right here out of one side of their mouth at the same time as they're invoking things like Title IV of the Civil Rights Act and Title IX of the Education Amendments and FERPA and TIPRA, because that is the basic foundational idea behind those laws. That someone is being oppressed as a result of their race, color, sex, or national origin.
Well,
There's
here's where this is good. Well, but before you go on, Rich, because this one mine's quick. One of the things that we're going to be able to use against them on this, wait until the patriotic education comes out and it starts saying how America is so much greater, and it violates their own executive order.
Oh, I read ahead a little bit because under definition D, it's self-contradictory. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Rich,
All right.
what were you going to say?
Well, yeah, and also they forget there's one distinction between all of that language and the language that they're like in opposition to, and it's the is-ought distinction, right? They're not saying it ought to be considered wrong to do these things. They're saying that it's wrong to acknowledge that these things exist at all. Whereas if they change the word is to ought, it would literally be a diversity thing.
Yeah.
Because you can't say any one thing is superior. What you mean is you can't say any one thing ought to be considered superior, or at least that's what the left would say. We would face the same thing in Texas. This language is very familiar to me because you remember those anti-Sharia laws?
Yep.
So it was the same thing. It was exactly the same language. And I remember complaining about it because, we were all panicking like everybody else. But I had a teacher who'd been through this many times in other contexts. And he was like, yeah, it's not going to affect us in the classroom at all, at least not in speech and debate. Because he argued that we're not doing any of those things that's being listed. And sure enough, like, they didn't come after us. They didn't come after that stuff in Texas. Like, was it really enforced? But it was big. One of the things that it said, literally what it said, is that you cannot say one group of people is superior to another. No one teaches that one group of people is superior to another. Like
no, we will say it in a particular context. This group of superior is to this group in this context during this situation. You know, that just because that's true. Sometimes when we're talking about history, one civilization is successful and the other fucking falls into ruin. Like this is just something that's true.
That we would never, that people on the left at least never used the word superior to describe groups of people.
Well, no, we will, and I won't use the particular word in question, even though we're actually, yeah, I will. Fuck it. It's like when everybody got all up in arms about the word retarded. I will use that term in chemical settings constantly, because it's in context. It's the same kind of thing. We will use superior. This was the superior agricultural civilization because it had better agriculture. It has nothing to do with us going, oh, they're superior on some kind of like racial level. It was just they were better farmers.
Hey,
like,
and I will point out that these definitions do include, in almost all cases, the word inherently. So they are qualifying this to say that, like, it's not necessarily that they are situational or contextually superior. It is this idea that they are inherently superior or inferior, as the case may be. And that's what they're including as part of this this discriminatory equity ideology. Because remember, all of these definitions are examples of the thing that they are claiming to be against.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and
it's the old Stephen Colbert joke about
Rich?
how conservatives don't see race.
Rich, leftists do use the term superior when talking about particular economic ideologies and the people that enforce them.
well, and then there's also we will do the hyperbolic joking of autism superiority and neurodivergent superiority. Like, so yeah, like it's used, but the way that they're doing it, they are trying to make it where any distinction that is not made by the government in this case, i.e. using the extension of divine command theory, anything the government does is moral and justified by extension of it being the government. They're trying to eliminate all of that possibility from everyone else. Mm-hmm. They just don't realize that the legal system doesn't work like the Bible. And they're going to run into some problems.
Well, it's also
as an autistic person, I am obviously evolutionarily superior to all of you neurotypical fucks
You just
out there.
won't be able to use the toilet or wipe yourself, according to RFK.
or write a poem, or pay taxes. But yeah, no, but here's the thing.
Okay,
but here's the thing.
But hold on, taxes, then I want a refund for the thousands of dollars I have already paid in my life.
Damn it! I knew I shouldn't have said it. but more my point is you may be right. Like we do not have enough evolutionary biology research to indicate whether autism could be indicated as the next stage of human evolution, because that is entirely possible. Is it likely? I don't think so. At least from the little bit of evidence I've seen of like earnest
We'd have
research
a lot faster
the
trains.
subject.
I'm just saying.
We would, but
it's true. If autistics were in charge, public transit would be so much better.
Well, this is true. But what I'm going to get at is, much like when we start talking about ancient Homo sapiens to anatomically modern Homo sapiens,
who else made the trains run?
Yeah, but we don't need to go there, Rich. But the difference between ancient Homo sapiens and anatomically modern Homo sapiens was at least according to many theories, was the loss of the megafauna. Mm-hmm. Essentially hunting most of the megafauna or many of the megafauna going extinct due to climate change. Autism could be an environmental response to the modern world of overstimuli, etc., therefore leading to epigenetic changes that carry on to it is technically possible. It just according to the evidence I've seen, like the chances of it being fixed to genetic like fixation like that, to the chances of it propagating out in the way I don't see it being supported well enough to go like whole hog even into going, this is even worthy of research. It's one of those things, yeah, that might be, but we're not going to know that for another century at least.
And
Like, there's just not enough data.
I just want to make it very clear to everyone out there, I was joking. That was entirely in jest. I don't actually, I know most people are going to get that it was a joke, but just because
well, especially when I treat it, especially when I treat it serious.
Exactly. So yeah, just with how Jack treated that just now, I know he doesn't think I actually believe that, but he, like me, will take any proposition, no matter how absurd on its face, and actually run it down in their mind and be like, okay, but like, what are the chances this is actually true? So
yeah, because I want to know if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That is my number one goal. If I am wrong, I want to fucking know, because I want to stop being wrong. I mean, actually, no, it's not my number one mantra. My number one mantra is class ideology, class solidarity will always trump ideological purity. But that's a whole different conversation, and we don't need to go into that. We're talking about education.
Now, I could have sworn your top priority was Lokhtar Agar, but that was just me.
And then my top motto lately has just been the single word "fuck." Like, by the way, for those of you who are not in on our group chat, that has been like my number one used word in the last fucking 90 days is an article posted with the single word "fuck" or "shit" directly after.
I'm pretty sure any of the writings that he does from now on is going to have it at every point or part of speech you could possibly put it in.
Well, I've been better in my writings, at least. Trust me. I did the homage to the Pope song after Francis. I will say that one had a lot of fucks in it. But if you read the Substack, by the way, go like and subscribe and go read the Substack.
Also in the description.
I don't. Yes, I don't use fuck nearly as much as I normally do, because I'm not trying to scare the normies and the righties off. I'm trying to reach out to them and bring them back to fucking sanity, because holy fucking shit, we need to get back to sanity. This is insane. Jeez,
I'm just saying,
but back to
getting
the
fucking
definition.
a reflexive pronoun is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Jack found a way. But
Are you getting? I'm getting to the point where I have a third declination of the word. Give me a break. Go on.
I feel like getting fuck into a reflexive pronoun is easy. My fucking self. Anyways. All right. Definition B4. I love this one. Members of one race, color, sex, or national origin cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to their race, color, sex, or national origin. The double negative here is very interesting. I love the double negative here because, they went to lengths to try and disguise what this is saying. It's like, you should treat people with respect based on who they are.
Uh-huh.
That is the discriminatory ideology.
That's why I say I see this pattern. I see the sliminess. I don't necessarily know where I've seen it before. Maybe that they're copying some other fucking legal paper, because that's possible. Yeah, it could be the anti-Sharia laws. It could have been the Muslim ban attempt. It could have been the anti-Somali laws back in the 90s. There's so many things that this could be. I don't know where I've seen this pattern before, but yeah, this is highly, highly intentional in the way that they're doing this. And ANCOM picked up on that double negative perfectly, because they tried very, very hard to hide that.
Yep.
Very hard to hide it.
I'm like, this is a really weird way to say this, and I'm like, oh, they put the double negative in there on purpose.
Well, and
okay.
I'll point out, because nobody else has to this point, notice the thing that's been removed from the normal situations when we would word stuff like this. Religion.
Oh,
has been removed from all of these.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had not noticed that, but you're right. You're absolutely right.
I was waiting till somebody noticed it, and I was hoping somebody would, so I didn't have to be the dickhead pointing it out as usual.
No, that's totally fair. It's like it didn't even occur to me. So, all right. This one is especially interesting. A, because it's long. B, because it gets at some really big talking points that I'm like, oh wow, this is some projection. Definition B5. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin, bears responsibility for, should feel guilt, anguish, or other forms of psychological stress because of, should be discriminated against, blamed, or stereotyped for, or should receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, or national origin in which the individual played no part.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're saying that if you advocate for any form of white guilt, which I will remind people isn't actually a thing that most people on our side are advocating for.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I will advocate for it, but the thing is when I advocate for it, this is when you do introspection, not when you're making policy decisions, you fucking chuckle fucks. It's, wait, was my family a part of this? No, my family wasn't. My family got here like in the end of the 1800s. But like it's something that we should think about, because could it be part of our family? Should we maybe, I don't know, when we have that extra $5, instead of go to Starbucks, give it to a charity? Even if it's not like specifically like racially like or like any of these other things motivated, like maybe we should go like, hey, yeah, I've benefited from this. I can help somebody else out this time. That's all that we're saying. And when we say this shit, it's not a matter of policy prescription.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're literally saying that the acknowledgement of generational wealth and success as a result of previous generations doing things, whatever those things might have been, that carries down the generational line, because inheritance and family wealth is a thing. Acknowledging this is, according to this definition, considered to be discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking wild.
It's like people forget, because as I pointed out on the one of the previous points, there are fucking nutbags in every camp. I'm sure there's some nutbag on TikTok that said this shit as the way that they're portraying it. And if I were to take them to court on this, they would use that as their exhibit A. And I would have exhibits B through ZZ as I go through the alphabet a second time on the opposite side. But I know there's some asshole out there who's saying this shit. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the problem is the way that they've worded this. It's also that they played no part in. Well, they fucked themselves technically, and this is where I have a small ray of hope, because no, the individual played a part in it. He just doesn't realize he played a part in it. Unconsciously being, a party to a crime does not make you any less guilty of or culpable of that crime. It just means that we'll put a little bit of mitigation in your sentencing. That's really all that means. They weren't even
born yet. How could they have been involved?
Because the way that they play a part is by literally ignoring the problem that has allowed this country to propagate these injustices. Because played no part. If they had said no significant part, no active role, they had to add one or two words, and this they would have actually not fucked themselves slightly on this one. But they did, because they can't help but to put their bigotry in the wording. If they had been a little less bigoted and a little smarter, and they had added one or two words, that would be semi-accurate to do. Because, for example, I do not believe I should go to somebody with the name Keratin and blame them because they come from the largest slave-owning family in the South. Mainly because I don't know if they come from the branch that owned all the damn slaves, because it was a big goddamn family. I don't know if they got any of the wealth. I don't know any of that shit. Like this is why these are internal critiques, not policy prescriptions. I don't know any of this shit. You do. As a person, you know your family history. That's all we're asking for is, hey, in the deep dark hours when you're sitting in the bath that night or sitting in front of the fire with a scotch, give it a thought. Like, I don't even think I'm asking a lot with that one. Because here's the thing. You could give it a thought and still come to be a dickhead like this. All I'm asking, though, is give it a thought. And let us say, give it a thought to the future generations.
And like this goes to a wider thing that I wish more people would think about, which is just think about how the actions of others have influenced where you are in life right now. Mm-hmm. This works both in the terms of the people who think I did it all, I pulled myself up from my own bootstraps without anybody's help. And my question there is, did you? Or were there things?
I've warned them. That's not how they work.
Yeah. But yeah. Or perhaps were there actions that other people took which influenced where you are right now? And conversely, like, were there actions that kept you from being able to be successful that other people took? Or were there actions that you took that kept others from being successful?
Let's not even go back crazy amounts of generations. Let's use a semi-personal example. If my dad and mom had not been tiger parents who pushed me to absolute fucking madness to all the crazy shit that they did during my childhood, would I have ended up going and becoming a chef and partying out and becoming a druggie? Or if I had just naturally been who I was in school and progressed how the school would have thrown me ahead, etc., would I have been like a person sitting at a blackboard right now at some university? That's one generation. We're going much further back than that when we talk about these things.
Like, yeah, we're talking about butterfly effect sort of thing. Mm-hmm. A small action in the past can compound over generations to a huge effect now. And to ignore that basic fact of causality is to ignore the entirety of like how human interactions work.
Like, if I had not, as a child, because of my parents, like, my escape was books and one TV show, well, 2 TV shows. Cosmos and Chili Child. Real hard to figure out why I became a chef when that was what I escaped to. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Like, we can't know all of these things because we don't know your internal thoughts. You do. We don't know most of your family dramas. You do. All of these things that nobody can know but you, which is why this isn't policy prescription. And people, unfortunately, these assholes have acted like it is because they don't like to be made felt guilty. As my friend put in one of his articles, they don't want to be reminded they're the ones who are throwing rocks at Ruby.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Okay, yeah. Let's kick this pig.
An individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion. Yeah, they think we believe that. And again, like...
Well, no, because I will be fair. Yeah, well, no, not even extremists. I will even say, because of how long DEIA was in place, this probably happened rarely. There's probably cases that if we were to dig, there was some jackass manager who did exactly this. Mm-hmm. It was not the norm. That's what that's what the data will show, though. So let's put this shit into perspective, people.
Yeah.
And that's to the audience, not you guys so much.
Well, that's kind of the point about all of these being executive orders. I mean, courts still have to interpret them. So if a court looks at this and says, yeah, that's not what happened in this case, then it,
well, we hope. We hope all the courts do what they're supposed to do. Anyways.
But of course, there will be the
word if.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe your gate cut out. I didn't hear if. That's my mistake.
Yeah, there will likely be the interpretations that, this white dude didn't get this job because this black woman was slightly more qualified, and that would be considered somehow to be discrimination or adverse treatment. I'm like, No. The whole point of DEI was to make sure that the more qualified person, regardless of their race, color, sex, or national origin, would get the job, because that's not what was happening before.
Yeah, and for those of you who have never done the hiring process outside of a fucking McDonald's, all this means is essentially the incoming applicants and resumes are randomized so that you don't know which one's on top, so that you have to dig through them and interview and do things. Like it's literally a passive process that is meant to help curtail, because obviously we can never get rid of our biases completely, but it meant to help curtail your own internal biases, because sometimes we will inadvertently stack things in a certain way subconsciously that lead to adverse outcomes. And this kind of randomization process, when you go, oh wow, this person's got degrees from Harvard and blah 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 blah. Honestly, as long as they don't have a name that's highly ethnically telling, you're probably going to pick that person.
Yeah.
And we've done other studies on that where literally the same exact resume with two different names are put on and they're treated differently. So, we even go that far into this research.
But Jack, this is the whole demanding acquiescence to unconscious bias that actually promotes racial discrimination.
I know. And I'm saying this is a big, bald white guy. Somebody's got to be sus now.
All right. Definition B7. Virtues such as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity, and racial colorblindness are racist or sexist, or were created by members of a particular race, color, sex, or national origin to oppress members of another race, color, sex, or national origin. So basically,
Wait, because remember 8 ties into 7 because they didn't do 7A like they were supposed to, because they're fucking idiots.
Oh, okay, my mistake. Okay, or B8, the United States is fundamentally racist, sexist, or otherwise discriminatory.
Yeah, because that should have technically either been continued as part of 7 or been 7A.
I mean, you can't
end
end on a semicolon. I'm just saying. There's
no, you can't. No. Actually, you can end in semicolons in legal documents. You can't end on or.
You cannot end on a conjunction. Although to be fair, these were all ended in semicolons because this was a list of definitions.
Yeah.
So
but it's the or, but the or they fucked up, because if they wanted this to be in the listing the way they actually numbered it, the or should have been at the beginning of or the United States, not at the end of the previous one. Like I said, it's one of those things. That's why this should have been 7A, or 7 subsection 1.
This feels very like an Oxford semicolon situation. I realize that's not a thing. I'm just playing off Oxford comma. Where it's
I know, which is why I'm laughing, because my issue with the Oxford comma.
I do, but I disagree with it. But that's
I know, but that's why I'm laughing.
Anyways,
okay. But let's get back to this, because it may be, but still, the way that it's written for a legal interpretation, you can't end on or. That's not that's.
Anyways,
I know this much about legal briefings that the judge is going to do the same thing I just did, because I've looked through enough briefings where they've put the corrections in.
Yeah.
But let's finish up this bullshit, because they're about to start contradicting themselves in this next section.
Yes. Yeah. But I just want to go over this, like the idea that all of those virtues, merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity, racial colorblindness, they were in fact created by predominantly
somebody of blank. So members of blank. I don't even care what it is.
Yeah, predominantly by members of a particular race, color, sex, and national origin. Let's be real here. And that, the United States does have a pretty heavily racist past. You don't have to look back all that far to see it. And if you go back throughout the entire history of the country,
just look left, look right, look up, look down. It's still here.
It's still here. All right.
Yeah, but
it's not hard to find, and so the idea that observing reality is discriminatory, that's what they're trying to pass off here.
Well, but it's also the way that they word it, the way that they phrase it. It's an attempt to whitewash, and they don't want to say that that's what they're doing. But this by removing the ethnicity of who comes up with these ideas, if it is an idea that they later use, they can also claim it as their own. That's the whole point. It's the same shit that fucking Hitler did in 1932. He did it to the fucking commies. He did it to the socialists. He did it to the fucking Jews. He did it to the Romani. He did it to everybody in his country, where he literally went through and changed definitions just like this to claim German superiority, and that all these great advancements were German, and any failures were the poison of the vermin within.
Well, all I'm going to say is anybody using the term colorblindness for anything is utterly dumb. Because let's analyze that really quick here. If you are colorblind, and let's just say all color, you still see things in a grayscale.
Yeah.
And you can still identify people's race on a grayscale. Even if there's no color.
The color blindness. Well, but color blindness, by the way, this is going to be quick as well. I had a problem with color blindness on the left, because the issue is it makes it too, as he says, too grayscale, too one-dimensional. And when you make things this complex, that one-dimensional, you will inadvertently create contradictions and like hurdles and shit. Like it's impossible not to. You cannot finite a complex system down to a simplistic rule like that. You will fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but let's go on with the reading, because otherwise...
Okay, so anyways, definition C is pretty banal. Education Service Agency, ESA, has the meaning given in 20 U.S.C. 1401, paragraph 5, and the terms elementary school, local education agency, LEA, secondary school, and state education agency, SEA, have the meanings given in 34 CFR 77.1, paragraph C.
Now CFR, just for those who because they didn't give that definition within here, it's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, because of the fact that it is a subset of how agencies interact. So
just to be clear, when I say USC, it refers to U.S. code. That is the federal laws, right?
Yep.
20 USC.
Well, yeah, but they explained all the other acronyms besides USC and CFR, so that's why I was adding it in.
Yeah, so USC is U.S. code. That's the federal laws. CFR is the something of federal regulations. I can't remember what the C is. Collection or something like that. Anyways, basically,
Committee of Federal Regulations. It's just how agencies interact with each other.
Yeah, it is the set of regulations that are determined by the various federal agencies that typically are considered to have the force of law, if not the full standing of law. So, moving on.
Okay, and then now we get on to their fuckery.
Yeah. Oh, and now this is the part I've been waiting on. All right. Section D. Patriotic education means a presentation of the history of America grounded in one, an accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling characterization of America's founding and foundational principles. Now, I want you all to go over these 5 adjectives: accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling, and figure out if you can apply all of these equally.
I can if I change 2 letters. I can if I change 2 letters to IG instead of EN at the beginning of nobling.
All I'm gonna say is I read this sentence and I thought somebody was playing Cards Against Humanity, and that's what they put down. And then someone's like, "All right, pick which one."
Well, but but seriously, if they had said ignobling, they could make this is a perfectly accurate thing, because the problem is our founding wasn't good. Our foundational principles weren't good. Did they become better? Yes. But they weren't good to start out with. That's kind of the fucking point. That's why they've changed.
Yep.
Oh.
So, a little bit of self-contradiction there.
But to tell you,
immediate.
Part of the language, part of the reason they do stuff like this is to goad the left into saying something like what you just said, because they know that it won't play well with the normies.
Well, no, because any normie who just heard what I said will admit our genocide of the fucking Native American people was not good. We got better. Our enslavement of the African American people were not good. We got better.
You want to clarify that statement when you say that we got better, okay? Because like Trail of Tears, and then we go to Wounded Knee. I mean,
but then eventually. Eventually, now don't get me wrong, it took us a long time, but eventually we got to the point where we started respecting the treaties with these nations. We started respecting their sovereignty. Now, granted, the sovereignty took till the 70s, but still. We got better over time, because that's what you do when you fuck up. You get better over time.
You start respecting the treaties after you've taken all the really good land.
But
I'm not saying we were great. I didn't say this is why I say ignobling is better.
And I do want to clarify that just because we've gotten better doesn't mean that we're good. So
yes.
Keep that in mind. Better is not good.
You guys are all working out all the complexities and nuances of this, and then their retort to you that's going to go on a bumper sticker is Jack hates America.
And they can try that shit, and I'll laugh at them, and I'll explain.
Tried that shit. They're in power. So
but the thing, they won't do that. My point is, if we get to the point where somebody's doing a bumper sticker about me, they can try that, and then I'll pull them on stage, and I'll beat them like a redheaded stepchild rhetorically, and then even their base is going to be going, God, my guy's a fucking moron. He should not have taken this debate. He should have telecommuted. He should have sent his staffer.
I mean.
Because that's what they're saying to all of these Republican senators at these goddamn town hall meetings right now. We don't fucking capitulate just because they're morons.
No. I'm not talking about capitulating. I'm talking about understanding the trap that they're laying, right? So.
Oh, I know.
There are ways to say what you need to say without springing their traps.
No, I want to spring their traps to show them how fucking feeble they are and how fucking feckless they are at implementing fucking lethality. Because this isn't a lethal trap, because they literally spring it on themselves by contradicting themselves in their own executive order.
Well, that's what I want to do. That's the shit that I think works. Is if we see something that they wrote that very clearly applies to them, and then just sue under their own.
Well, that's what we're doing here, because in the previous section, it said we can't say that any one country or any one thing is better than another, and then, boom, first fucking definition under patriotic education.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse. Let's keep going, Hancock.
All right.
Judah.
All right, Section D2. A clear examination of how the United States has admirably grown closer to its noble principles throughout its history. You know, the noble principles that meant black people were three-fifths of a person. That's such a noble principle, don't y'all think?
I want to point this out. I want to point this out first, okay? So I've been like chatting with people in chat and whatnot, and somebody pointed out, it's like, please, Professor, help me have or get an honest and inspiring telling of the Tuskegee Project. Okay? And I said, and this is my reply. The willing participants in a wellness study bravely fought the side effects for the betterment of the country.
Here's the thing. You're not wrong with the way they tried to rewrite it on their fucking website before the backlash. I mean, your wording's slightly off, but that's pretty much what they tried to say.
Right.
Whose website?
God. The government's website, when they tried to replace the they removed the black generals, they removed Jackie Robinson's service, they removed like a bunch of shit. They also tried to change a few things that they couldn't remove, like the Tuskegee Airmen and a few other things that were done.
Railroad was another one. The Wind Talkers, or whatever they call the Code Talkers, the Navajo Code Talkers was another thing that they took out entirely.
Yeah, and they modified. Like they tried modifying the way that we used to treat disabled students and things like this, and they got caught because people were fucking waiting for them to try and do that shit, and they were watching those fucking websites like hawk. They were caught within 20 minutes on each change.
Yep.
But they were trying to make it where, yeah, the Tuskegee, they knew they had informed consent and did it willingly, and the disabled people and their parents willingly let them be put into rooms where they were abused and neglected and literally left to sit in their own feces and fucking die in the 80s, so on and so forth. They tried to remove all of this shit, because it makes them look bad, because that would hurt St. Reagan. That last one I'm talking about would have hurt St. Reagan because of his fucking policies, because it's what led to that shit in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Even though if Reagan was alive today, he'd be on this podcast saying, get him. Because these people don't represent even what Reagan stood for. And I fucking hate Reagan. But I fucking hate Reagan, and even Reagan would be on our side if he was still alive, based on his policies at the end of his
He'd be on our side.
He would not be
push him pretty far away from the rest of us.
No, I didn't. No, honestly, I would put my arm around that fucking ghoulish motherfucker and be like, even this motherfucker thinks they're crazy. Like, come on, like seriously, like the way they talk about Reagan, they're talking about a myth of a man who never existed.
There's like it's like a Paul Bunyan talk.
And I can say that. Well, and I can say that as we have a Reagan youth in our chat or in our call right now.
Not
he
only
can tell
am
you,
I a member in, well, I don't know if I'm a member in good standing, but I'm a member of the Reagan youth, and also my kids are entering the Ronald Reagan debate tournament next week, in which we have entire cases that are all about Reagan siding with progressives on a modern progressives.
Well, what would be considered progressive today? Remember, our left is still center right by world standards.
Yeah, one of the shocking things we found. I knew we would find this, but I didn't understand the degree to which we would find it. The sheer amount of evidence showing that what Reagan believed was about education specifically, because that's what our topic is. I thought that was one of the things that Trump and Reagan were still sort of copacetic on. No, not at all.
I told you, didn't I? I told you when you dug into it.
Yeah. A lot of stuff they're rolling back is stuff that Reagan put in place in 1984. But 3 big education bills. Yeah, and
because he bought into. Okay, for those of you in the audience, because this is our first live, this is a Heritage Foundation plan that dates back to the 80s, literally Reagan's first term. And he followed their plan for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And then he got a report of how American students were doing. And he immediately fucking never said another goddamn word about it and started reversing all of his previous decisions, including putting the 3 education reform bills that Rich just brought up into place that basically shot everything that he had put in place before then in the fucking dick and put it in the ground for good. Well, we thought for good. Trump's trying to bring that fucking ghoul back to life now, but
right.
So like, yeah, he would be on our side because we're on his side. It's kind of sad that 2 communists are sitting here going, yeah, Reagan's policies were better than this.
Yeah. and mind you, we're 2 people who love blaming Reagan for just about everything.
Hey.
And
I'm not communist, and I'll jump on that boat too.
Well, yeah, but you have like direct, like physical reason to hate him, whereas ours is more abstract because he was the arch capitalist.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yours is more tangible. Ours is more abstract.
All right. So as if that last section wasn't cringy enough, let's get to section D3. The concept that commitment to America's aspirations is beneficial and justified.
Yep, and then they did it again, and
they did the Oxford semicolon again. Yeah. Section D4, the concept that celebration of America's greatness and history is proper. The wording there, the word proper, is fucking wild. Okay, like, are we fucking Mr. Moneybags with a top hat and a monocle? And yes, I know the Monopoly Man did not have a monocle, but
no, I know that's. But I'm gonna point out
he had 2 monocles.
All of this that we have read could be the trap, because notice what they bury at the very end here, because this is the one that doesn't really fit with any of the rest. Like, why did they put this part outside of where they had talked about sex?
Oh, are you talking about Section E here?
Yeah. Why did they remove it from where they did all the sex and all that stuff, codification earlier? Why did they move it after patriotic? Because, and I'm going to bring this up as somebody who comes from a right-wing family and has a lot of right-wing in-laws now, because they view, and I'm going to use a word that a lot of people are going to find offensive, but there's no other way to say it, the sissification of men through transitioning to women as an actual threat to national security, because it makes us look weak to the strongmen countries like Russia and North Korea and China.
And Hungary.
They don't care about Hungary.
Turkey.
they know we could.
Azerbaijan.
I'm not going to say what they. I'm not going to say what they know we could do, because what they know we could do is not something that I advocate doing. But technically, we have the military might to do it. Yeah, Turkey and Hungary would bend the knee very quickly.
India?
Or nah, even India. Because if they tried to go after India, then they have to deal with Pakistan and China. Now, even Trump's not that fucking crazy. He's not trying to go through both the fucking Asian primary and the Asian subcontinent. The only person who was that fucking dumb was Hitler and Napoleon. Like, honestly.
Just real quickly, I want to propose to the trans community in general that we respell sissification to CISification, just because it's funnier.
No. Well, and here's the thing. I don't like using that term, but it is the only TOS-friendly term that matches the shit that they say. Like, honestly, that's why I had to use it. And it is a word that they themselves will use.
The CIS word also works too.
Yeah, but
technically,
they
in this
won't hear
case,
that.
Yeah, technically in this case, the sissification that Jack was talking about is actually the transification.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what they call it, because to them only, and I'm going to use the word again, I hate and I apologize in advance, only sissy boys would want to become a girl. That's how they think. They don't understand.
Well, yeah.
And here's the thing: as much as I hate this, as much as
you don't even have to use the word there. It's the idea that boys are becoming girls. That is the fundamental misunderstanding they have.
I know, but it's see. But here's the thing: I feel bad for these people. As much as I hate them and I hate the shit that they promote, they don't know that they're being lied to. They don't know that they're being used. And it bothers me. And that's why, like, as much as I hate this shit, and I hate a lot of their actions, and even some of the people, I try to reach out to them in the stuff that I'm putting out with Five Old Fogies, because they don't fucking realize that this is literally the shit that fucking Marx talked about, and fucking Lenin talked about, and all the fucking leftists talk about with manufactured consent. Please, you are being lied to. If my side was lying to me like this, I'd want you to tell me you're being fucking lied to. There's nothing else I can say about it. Like, we aren't doing this. And you were saying something, Rich. Sorry.
Every some of them to change their minds.
Yep. Well, it's not even just like, oh, I'm appealing because I need you. It's you have been lied to, and I know, but you're thinking pragmatically, whereas I'm thinking very humanly. You've been lied to, and I want you to come back. I don't even care if you end up on my side and become a leftist. Stop supporting this shit and go back to supporting some common sense Republicans who have fucking actual fucking evidence to back up their claims. Please. At least those people we can have like productive conversation and debate with. Like, all we could do is like clown on this and show you how absolutely ridiculous it is, because nobody's doing this. I mean, I'm being hyperbolic with that because of my emotions, but like, if there is anybody doing this, they're one in a million. Find me the 330 that are doing this, and I will condemn them with you. And then let's get back to fucking fixing this shit. Okay, sorry.
So the final section in the definitions, and this is what he was talking about as being so out of place. Section E. Social transition means the process of adopting a gender identity or gender marker that differs from a person's sex. This process can include psychological or psychiatric counseling or treatment by a school counselor or other provider, modifying a person's name, for example, Jane to James, or pronouns, for example, him to her, calling a child non-binary, use of intimate facilities and accommodations such as bathrooms or locker rooms specifically designated for persons of the opposite sex, and participating in school athletic competitions or other extracurricular activities specifically designating for persons of the opposite sex. Social transition does not include chemical or surgical mutilation. The fact that they used mutilation there, I knew they were going to do it, and it still got me, because fucking hell, that word infuriates me every time I see it.
Yeah, you want to talk about mutilation, motherfucker? When are you going to stop fucking circumcising all your kids?
Yeah.
But until then, fucking shut the fuck up.
Yeah. As long as
I'm sorry.
As long as genital mutilation remains a standard practice, they have no right to talk about fucking surgical mutilation.
Yeah, it's just.
See, and of course, they say chemical mutilation because, you know, to them stopping puberty is mutilation.
Well, and here's the thing, I could argue that one at least, because I know the case they're going to bring up, and you and I would both agree that that was a form of both chemical and surgical mutilation. They're going to bring up money.
Oh, well, yeah, but that wasn't even social transition. It's literally a counterexample.
But these people, they know that their audience isn't going to understand that. They know it's going to give them the ick factor because of everything that money did. And then they're going to quietly forget that they're quoting money on half of their anti-vax shit.
And just for people who don't know, I'm going to quickly summarize. I don't remember his first name.
John Money.
John Money was a doctor who had a case with a child whose genitals were malformed at birth.
Damage during the circumcision.
Oh, right. Thank you. Damage during circumcision. So what he decided to do was to surgically remove the infant's penis and to have his parents raise the child as a girl. And what ended up happening is the child asserted very, very clearly and obviously
from the age of 4.
The gender identity of a boy, regardless of the physical anatomy, regardless of the social conditioning. That gender identity was still extremely strong within the child. Mm-hmm. What that tells me is that there is something internal to humans that is not easily changed by social conditioning, that is not easily changed by anatomical modification, that gives them a strong innate sense of their gender. That tells me that
because people forget that it's a construct, and the thing is that we have placed into these gendered boxes are things that we were trying to draw categorization around for science, and normies misunderstand because those boxes move and change as we get new information. They get taught it the one way in high school, and they never change until they're 7. I mean, so I gotta give them a certain amount of like credence. Like, we've learned more since the textbook that you were studying in the 90s that was written in the 70s. We've learned a lot since then.
But
Please
the point that I'm making,
up.
but the point that I'm making is the experiment, if you could call it that money ran on this child and family. That tells me that the gender identity that people have within themselves, which, you know, accepting that gender is
we even have brain scans to back up what you're saying.
I know. What the point that I'm trying to make is that gender is a construct, socially speaking, but there is an interaction between that social construct that is external and something internal to us, which allows us to fit ourselves into a particular box that society has set out as an option for us.
Well,
right?
that we perhaps shouldn't have made a box was what I was getting at. Because, for example, if we were more gender neutral, and that boy who was mutilated by money and his fucking bullshit, because I'll actually use that term for his crap. That boy was like, oh, but I like these things, but those things are considered boy things, so on and so forth. Like, he went through a lot of the same things that kids go through today in the opposite way for a very different reason, because he is trying to interact with society. These like, when we say it's a social construct, this isn't me us saying it's non-existent. It doesn't exist. It's us trying to define things that we are observing. And sometimes, especially when it's new that we are observing these things, or at least writing down that we're observing them in some way, we get it wrong. This was one of those times we got it fucking wrong.
This was one of those times we got it wrong. But the point that I'm trying to make is, out of this thing that we got wrong, we ended up learning something that ultimately lends credence, lends evidence to the claims that trans people make about themselves.
Yeah, and I just, the reason I bring this up, chat, and the reason why we're going a little bit off into the weeds on this, I know this is the case they're going to use, because every state that has sued prior to this point, that has had a Heritage Foundation lawyer on the other side, you know, fighting these policies being put in place, they have used that case in their briefing. So, like, this is just me getting ahead of when the next one of these comes up and you see it mentioned in a news report, because it's the one they constantly use, because it's one of the few, even though it shouldn't have been, because unfortunately, like I said, we got it wrong. It was one of those times we didn't know what we were doing, and therefore we gave accreditation to somebody we shouldn't have. We allowed this thing to happen because we didn't know enough to even know how to make the rules yet. And we were literally fumbling in the fucking dark. And unfortunately, Money's study got credence for like 15 to 20 years until basically it was discovered what happened to David. That's the young man in question.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name.
I don't remember his last name. I don't remember his brother's name. But I remember his name was David because they've made movies about this, and I remember the main movie that they made about it is his name was David.
Okay.
And
there's another problem here too. The other problem is that even conservatives, in fact, especially conservatives, would argue if they were put in a situation where they had a child that was one of those outcomes besides male and female, right? Like the laundry list of somewhere in between that you can land, whether it be with genetics or with your gametes or with your testes or with your hormones, that is in some way outside of the norm. The conservative response would be to do something like what Money did, which is to pick a gender. Presumably they would say,
whichever one is most physically evident is probably what they would say.
Presumably they would say whichever one is most obvious according to whatever their standard is. And now this law says you can't do that. So this law basically establishes, I suppose, I don't know what's the term for it, like non-binary in terms of sex, not just gender.
Gender abolition is the term you're looking for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. So this is another way in which you could potentially use this regulation to say that conservatives are discriminating by affirming a gender
back out?
or by affirming a sex.
Yeah. Yeah, my point of everything I was saying is just to bring up that, like, when the case of John Money and David get brought up, and it's usually being brought up by people who are anti-trans in some way, it's helpful to know going in that the case ultimately, like, when you understand the full scope of it, tends to support the claims and rights of trans people, not.
But they don't look that far. They only look at the surgery.
No,
and
I know that they don't. I know that they don't. What I'm saying is to our audience.
I'm saying that for chat. I was saying that for chat, not for you.
Okay. Yeah, but for our audience, when that's brought up, explain the full case. Explain what then later happened with it, and explain that he
was driven out of science because of it. He was proven, according to his notes, to be doing this unethically. Like, his intention was unethical because Money, and this is something that I don't know if you remembered or just didn't remember to include, Money believed that gender was entirely a construct, and therefore at any time that we found ourselves too imbalanced, we could secretly do this to children to rebalance the sexes.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta go, but I'll just say this one last thing before I leave. Is that one of the things that we found out a long time ago, like in my squad or whatever, that whenever issues similar to this came up, like a wide variety of things, like certainly having to do with gender, like with a wide variety of issues, where the dividing line seems to come up that confuses people is one thing, and it's consent. Like, it's always boiled to they don't understand consent, or they don't think consent is necessary. Because even the John Money thing, what's wrong about the John Money thing was that he didn't have the consent of the person he was doing it to.
No, and he strong-armed the parents. Well, and he strong-armed the parents. He literally, for I think it was I forget the exact amount of time, so I don't even want to speculate. But it was more than one day where he was berating them, calling them on the phone, saying how the kid was going to grow up a freak and all. Like, he was very unethical. And by the way, Rich, because you brought this up, and I know you have to go into Legion when you get a chance. It's a short video, like a minute 20 seconds. Above the one where I tagged you, Rise and Shine Texan, watch that video because it ties into what you just said on consent.
Okay, yeah, I will. Because it seems to me like we're always looking for shortcuts for things. Like, if you have 2 minutes to prepare a 5-minute speech, you can't do your own research. So you need things that are already in your head. Consent is one of those key things that seems to cover so many different political issues. So, I encourage everyone to think about consent and apply it whenever possible.
Well, and especially when we start talking things like medical and legal, because they are the two most important places, and people are going to go, oh, what about sexual? That's covered under medical, assholes. Medical and legal consent are the two most important places where it's currently under attack by this administration. Please pay attention to it.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Catch you later. And by the way, Rich, if you're available later, Corey's available after 6, so we may want to do a touch-up on this if we don't get through all 3 executive orders.
Okay, all right, great.
Yep.
I mean, we've already been working on one for the last 2 hours, so I don't think we're going to get through all 3.
I know, but depending on how long we end up pushing through, we'll see what we get through. So now, thankfully, the next section, the commentary is going to be these fucking assholes mainly. So, Despy, if you want to read this, we could get through this part quicker.
Is this the
we're
section
not
3?
Section 3, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're reading on my screen, I'm moving it for you.
I see it. It's all good. So ending indoctrination strategy, Part A. Within 90 days of the date of this order, to advise the President in formulating future policy, the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services, in consultation with the Attorney General, shall provide an ending indoctrination strategy to the President through the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, containing recommendations and a plan for 1. Eliminating federal funding to support for illegal and discriminatory treatment and indoctrination in K through 12 schools, including based on gender ideology and discriminatory equity ideology.
Yeah, they made it a tongue twister.
Semicolon, and starting the next one, assholes. Protecting parental rights pursuant to FERPA 20 USC 1232G, and then the PPRA 20 USC 1232H, with respect to any K through 12 policies or conduct implicated by the purpose and policy of this order. Wow.
Okay, yeah. They really made this one a tongue twister, trying to fit that fucking acronym back in the way they do. But basically, this is, we don't need to go too far into it. You've seen evidence of this on the news. This is Maine. This is blah 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 blah. So now we go out to B, because this is where it gets fucking fun.
Yeah. The ending indoctrination strategy submitted under Section A of this section shall contain a summary and analysis of the following. 1. All federal funding sources and streams, including grants and contracts that directly or indirectly support or subsidize the instruction, advancement, or promotion of gender ideology or discriminatory equity ideology, :
Okay, so the reason I say this one is where it gets interesting. Notice where it says indirectly.
Yeah.
This is going to be how they start chasing out certain vendors.
Yeah.
This is going to be how they start. So like Cisco, get on board, or you're going to lose that. Airmark, get on board, or you're going to lose that contract. This is them. This is them using the school and these fundings as a bludgeon against corporations to get them in line, because they know if they can get schools, corporations, and parents in line, half their battle's already won.
Yeah. Well,
and for those of you who don't
Cisco
understand,
or Airmark, because both of them serve as schools. So.
Yep. And the reason that these are important for those of you in chat who don't follow the shit, that's like 75% of their fucking internal income from the U.S. Now, don't get me wrong, both companies make money outside of the U.S., but inside the U.S., most of their money comes from fucking fast food and schools.
Well. Schools and prisons.
Actually, from what I've been seeing, the reason I didn't include that is, from what I've been seeing, they've been doing less and less in that, because they've been doing prison labor so that they don't even have to put money into the fucking the prisoners' food.
Right, but I think, what is it, in federal prisons, I think that they still use Cisco and Airmark, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if it's federal DOC, yes, but if it's one of the private federal contractors, they've been basically forcing a lot of the people to farm their own fucking food, and that's what's led to some nutrition problems in some of these private prisons. So, that's another story. We will derail for fucking hours on prisons.
Also, hello to that gorgeous kitty that was just on screen.
Yes, that was Squirt. That was one of the two.
I've got a gorgeous kitty myself in my arms at the moment. I wish that I could turn on my camera.
Yeah, but
she that is one of the two dreamsicles. They share a brain cell. Right now, she doesn't seem to have it. The other one's sleeping, so I'm guessing it's just floating in the ether at the moment.
Well, just remember when we're talking about this, we're not just talking about like Cisco and food. We're also talking about suppliers of different supplies for schools. All of your musical instruments, all of your your art equipment. All of this stuff has to come in. Hell, even if you have a shop class or whatnot, even the wood that comes through there has to go through this stuff.
Now, I mean, I'll give them some fairness on this one. As much as I hate these pricks, they're not going to have to worry about the shop classes. We got rid of those in the 90s.
Hey, I had shop class. I had shop class.
Yeah, and you were the last generation who did.
Yep, I never had an option for shop class. The best
and he lives in one of the biggest fucking like trade unionist areas in the country, where like auto shop and wood shop probably was a primary class. It wasn't even a fucking elective. It was probably on like part of the curriculum in some schools.
Hey, you know,
I'm just saying the best. The best, like most artistic, crafty style class that I could get into was choir.
Hey, I'm just saying.
That was it.
Yeah. I lived in farm country when I went to high school, and everybody was taking those classes because you were basically going to be doing that job at home, and why not make sure your skills are better while doing it at school?
Well, it wasn't even just that. It was like when I went to shop class, and they handed me the fucking the table jigsaw and the table router, and I'm like, oh, cool. And I was just like, oh, I've been doing this shit for years before I ever got into class.
Hey, they taught us how to use an arc welder, a MIG welder, and an acetylene torch.
Well, yeah. So you come from the generation after me.
Welder, but you know.
but it's a particular type of one instead of a TIG.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting too nerdy. We're getting too nerdy. Yeah. We're getting too nerdy.
There's MIG, TIG, and stick. Those are the big three.
Yep.
Yes. And acetylene. People forget that was our
welders. MIG, TIG, and stick are the big arc welding ones because they use electrical arcs to do the melting versus a flame.
Yeah, and just people forget that that's how we started welding, was the oxyacetylene torch and thermite.
Yes.
But now
actually we still use thermite for welding
railroad
train tracks. Yeah.
Yep. Well, a few other things too, but we're getting too nerdy. We're doing education now. Okay, so Despi, I do want you to continue reading, but I'm going to go through A and B real quick because they mean nothing. In K through 12 curriculum, instruction in programs or activities, or in K through 12 teachers' education, certificate, licensing, employment, and trade. So literally, they are literally even going after the licensing board, the employment, like the HR employers, and the training directors. This isn't just going after the curriculums. This is trying to literally get rid of anyone that's even remotely involved with anything they find objectionable, aka 32 Germany. Go on. Right. With the rest of it.
I was just going to say, like, what is it? Instructions, programs, and activities. Man, theater is going to take a major hit. Like a major hit because of this.
Theater, public speaking, like this.
I
wish Rich was still here.
Can you imagine a forensics team?
Not just forensics. This may actually be one of the things that affects Rich.
Yeah.
Because this is.
Yeah.
So, and because A and B is repeated is why I went through that quick. Because that way we don't have to repeat it a couple more times when they go through it.
Oh, yep. So let's take a look here. Okay, part 2. Each agency's process to prevent or rescind federal funds to maximize extent consistent with applicable law from being used by the ESA, SEA, LEA, elementary schools, and secondary school to directly or indirectly support or subsidize the instruction, advancement, or promotion of gender ideology or discriminatory equity ideology in... the aforementioned
3. Yeah, and then oh wait, no, it's got an extra sentence.
So do you want me to read 3 then too as well?
Yeah, I'll just have you go through the section 3, and then I'll read section 4 because I don't think you'll be able to read through it without vomiting.
Okay, well, I can try. I can
No,
try.
I mean section 4, not subsection 4 of section 3.
All right. Each agency's process to prevent or rescind federal funds to maximize extent consistent with applicable law from being used by an SEA, ESA, SEA, LEA, elementary school, secondary school, to directly or indirectly support, subsidize, or the social transition of a minor, including through school staff or teachers, or through deliberately concealing the minor's social transition from the minor's parents. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Now the next A and B are different. When we get to those, so you will have to read those because these motherfuckers don't know how to fucking actually like title these things properly, or subset them properly, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one is combating the 8 states. Yes, that's 8 only that had protected their students from abusive parents. If the student was reporting to a mandatory reporter, to prevent mandatory reporting, because of the fact that the parents would be abusive with the aforementioned trans or gay or whatever news in question.
Yeah.
So like this is them attacking 8 states that was protecting. I don't know how many students, but enough. Like this is them trying to make everyone feel like Louisiana. Sorry for the person I saw in chat from Louisiana, but you know what your school systems are like.
Hey, no. Here's just the question I have: how many children is enough to? What is it? How many is enough to abuse children? For us to,
I mean, that's really what it's coming.
No, it's like, what is your threshold? What is your threshold for enough abused children?
Is it just the differently abled, the people don't share your skin tone, people who don't share your religion? What is it you're allowing? Because I guarantee you, one of your kids or your cousins or your fucking nephews is going to fall into one of these really, really sweeping broad categories. And you're going to get hurt by this shit too.
Yep.
This is not about trying to fix something that is broken. This is about control.
Yep.
They accuse us of trying to control you. The only thing we're trying to control you enough to do is to think. I'm not going to... That's the extent of my control. I want to shake you and make you think. You will have every possibility of coming to a conclusion that is different than mine. But think. For fuck's sake, that is all we want you to do.
Yep.
So, what control do you want? The ones who tell you what to think? Or the ones who just say, please think?
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's finish this craptastic section, because the next section's already going to be bad enough.
Yeah. Well,
section 4, 1770.
Basically, the second section is just a reiteration of what was like the support and subsidies and whatnot. And I'm just going to read part A for this. Interferences with the parents' federal statutory right to information regarding school curriculum, records, physical examination surveys, and other matters under the PPRA or FERPA. Or
titles Title 6 and Title 9.
Yeah.
Now, okay, and for those of you in the audience who don't know this, the only reason your fucking children would be going under physical medical examination in school is if they're a goddamn athlete. They added this section to go after 10 fucking students in the whole goddamn country. Sorry.
Or if they're injured, but not really relevant.
Well, no, because that wouldn't be considered a physical examination. That would be considered a trauma examination under school code. That's why I say they're doing this so that if your child, for example, was a swimmer, and they had, for you and I both know this is a completely impossible situation, but just for the sake of the hypothetical, they had saved up the money and medically transitioned at 17 when they could medically consent in their state, but their parents didn't approve of it. this now prevents the school from withholding that information from the parents again. Which is what they were just saying was happening. The reason I use that example is it was the shit that they were using in the back of the day when, everybody on the left's a drug dealer. That's how they have so much money. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Because that was also at the beginning of this trans shit, and that's how they were going to say the kids are going to become drug dealers so that they can get their sex changes. Yeah, thank you, fucking Limbaugh. Asshole.
Yeah.
Fucking rest in piss, you prick.
Well, there's a long list of those people. Reagan being one.
No, I understand. Yeah, but this one specifically is a Limbaugh ditto head thing that caused a lot of fucking damage, and unfortunately is what they're basing this on. Okay. Is because one kid who was 17 got emancipated. Yeah. And go through a fucking sex change. They weren't even fucking trans. But Limbaugh turned it into this fucking boogeyman.
All right, let's finish this up here so that we can get to section 4.
Yeah, get on. Which is going to be a nightmare.
A summary and analysis of all relevant agency enforcement tools and advance the policies of this order. The Attorney General shall coordinate with the state attorneys general and local district attorneys in their effort to enforce the law and file appropriate actions against K-12 teachers and school officials who violate the law by sexually exploiting minors, unlawfully practicing medicine by offering diagnosis and treatments without the requisite license, or otherwise unlawfully facilitating the social transition of a minor student.
The final blow in a nightmare fuel.
Yep. The assistant to the president of domestic policy shall regularly convene the heads of the agencies tasked with submitting the ending indoctrination strategy under subsection A of this section to confer regarding their findings, area for additional investigation, the modification or implementation of their respective recommendations, and such other policy initiatives or matters as the president may direct.
Yeah, and I'll go back up because when we go back up to this portion here.
Which one is it? So I can show.
The people who this is going to be. This is going to be Bondi, RFK, and Jay Bhattacharya.
Yep.
And let's not forget Linda McMahon and Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
That's who makes up this advisory board that they just referenced in that last bit.
We're just talking about like the head of the DOE, the head of the DOD, HHS, and Attorney General?
And they mention other relevance, and I know that Jay Bhattacharya is on this committee as well, who is another person who's working in I think he's CDC.
Yeah.
I forget what, because we weren't sure what position they were gonna fucking put him in, but we knew they were putting him in. We thought he was gonna go in HHS, but fucking Trump pulled the trigger and Congress fucking bend the knee to let RFK in. So
yeah. Like I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself now that I'm unable to use the toilet by myself, unable to wipe by myself, and will never have a fulfilling life.
Well, I mean, you may never have a fulfilling life, but that's because you live in Japan.
No, you're right. Their food portions are small here.
Especially for a 6'4" fucking Kansan. Or are you Minnesota or Kansan? I forget where you were born.
I was born in Minnesota. My family lives in Kansas.
Yeah.
I moved to Kansas when I was
anyways,
a teenager.
You're a 6'4" Midwesterner, okay? Small portion sizes for you is like a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's all I meant by the joke for people in chat, because Japan's awesome. Although, please, for the love of God, stop being the fucking leftist douchebag influencer going there and doing medical tourism, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Please, you are hurting their country.
No. They're not. It's not that you're hurting their country. You're directly hurting me by doing this, because everybody then looks and says that I'm the problem, even though I've paid into the service for 14 fucking years.
Well, there's that too, but I mean, colorism's a problem in all medical systems, regardless of where in the world, unfortunately. But more what I'm talking about is this is one of the reasons why your medical service is getting so expensive and why so many members of your highly conservative party are talking about ending your socialized medicine.
No, they're not talking about ending it. They're not talking about ending it. They're talking about ending it for people who are not Japanese.
Okay, sorry, that was lost in translation in our articles.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, please stop. I know I'm not going to name names, but there's 2 influencers in the last year that I have personally fucking watched take their stream, go to Japan, do the medical tourism bullshit, be fucking highly weeb-tastic douchebags as they walk around Japan thinking they're being respectful as they treat everybody like a 14-year-old fucking kid because they're fucking doing shit they saw in anime. And they don't know anything about the goddamn thing other than they took a goddamn Duolingo class to learn some of the language. It's fucking goddamn insulting. Stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, we're off topic. Let's keep going because I probably have to go here soon.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to get into this. And now I'm going to read long sections without comment because the comments are going to be long enough. Because and a lot of this is just a lot of fucking bullshit layered in that we thought we got rid of. Okay, so sorry, I forget it. Splits it. The President's Section 4, reestablishing President's Advisory 1776 Commission and promoting patriotic education.
Yeah.
The President's Advisory 1776 Commission, or 1776 Commission from here on out, which was created by Executive Order 13958 in November 2022, to promote patriotic education, was terminated by President Biden-elect by Executive Order 3985 in January 2021, is hereby reinstated. Purpose of the 1776 Commission is promote patriotic education and advance the purposes stated in Section 1 of Executive Order 13958, as well as to advise and promote the work of the White House Task Force in celebrating America's 250th birthday, Task Force 250, the United States semi-quincentennial. That's not there's a reason that line, there's a red line under that word, assholes. That's not how those suffixes work. Okay. Semi-commission in their efforts to provide grand celebrations worthy of momentous occasion on the 250th of America's independence on 4th of July, 2026. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall establish the 1776 Commission of the Department of Education. And the 1776 Commission shall be composed of not more than 20 members who shall be appointed by the President for a term of 2 years. The 1776 Commission shall be made up of individuals outside the federal government with relevant experience or subject matter expertise. By the way, for those of you who don't remember this order, this is the one that was going to allow any veteran, of any rank, of any assignment, of any kind, to suddenly be qualified to be a teacher of any kind. As you can see, Despy is trying not to puke.
Just because that semi-quincentennial thing bothered me so much, I need to explain. They're saying half of 500 years, which is stupid. If you're going to do this, it's sesquibicentennial, because it's half and then half and 200 years.
Yeah, and we had a sesquicentennial at 150 years, which is why we know this. Beyond that, we know this in legal precedent. All you had to do was Google it, you motherfuckers.
Hey, they are trying to add words to the dictionary.
But sorry,
as someone who lived in California most of my life and got used to seeing sesquicentennial 150 years on California license plates, you learned that one fast.
Yeah. Okay. So let me continue reading this bullshit.
Why would you put a Greek prefix on a Latin word?
Because we're Americans and we do weird shit. No, going back to this fucking nightmare fuel. The 1776 Commission shall have a chair and co-chairs, a chair or co-chairs at the president's discretion, and a vice chair who shall be designated by the president from among the commission's members, an executive director designated by the Secretary of Education in consultation with the assistant to the president for domestic policy. Jesus Christ, they made this so convoluted. Shall coordinate the work of the 1776 Commission. The chair or chairs and the vice chair shall work with the executive director to convene regular meetings of the 17. By the way, this when you go back to this is going to be weekly. Trump is going to be updated on this at the beginning of each week. 1776 Commission shall facilitate the development and implementation of the Presidential 1776 Award to recognize student, acknowledge the American founding, including knowledge of the founders, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitutional Convention, and the great soldiers and battles of the American Revolutionary War. Oh boy, I want to see that test, because I guarantee you there's not a motherfucker alive who can pass it who hasn't gone through some fucking religious school. Sorry,
it's okay.
In coordination with the White House office.
I need to say something on this, okay? The only people that are going to be able to pass this are the autists that RFK is trying to get rid of.
Well, no, not even them, because the great soldiers and battles of the American Revolutionary War.
Hey.
Which ones are they going to be listing?
Jack, you underestimate our power.
No, I underestimate your ability to tell a lie, my friend. That's the problem. With the way this is worded, there weren't a whole lot of great soldiers or great battles of the Revolutionary War. There were some decisive ones, but we were fucking monsters during that war. Don't get me wrong, the British were fucking just as bad, but we were fucking monsters during that war.
Yeah.
We burned people alive for information and shit. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Were they on our side?
Some of them, unfortunately, yes.
Were they on our side?
Well, considering the one I'm thinking of when I said some of them, unfortunately, yes. Yes, because the information he ended up giving was complete gibberish, even while being fucking burned. Well, not technically burned alive, having a hot iron shoved into his gut.
Mm-hmm.
Close enough. Was complete gibberish, and therefore tells me that he succumbed to the thing that 75% of all torture victims do, and he said whatever made it stop.
Yep.
So, but in coordination with the White House Office of Public Liaison, coordinating bi-weekly lectures regarding the 250th anniversary of the American independence that are grounded in the patriotic education principles which shall be broadcast on the nation through the calendar year 2026. Yeah, I don't know this for certain, but I have the sneaking suspicion that if we haven't put an end to some of this shit, he's going to use the national broadcasting system to have it on every TV for at least an hour a day. I only base that on some things that Hegseth and a few others have said, but upon request, advise executive departments and agencies regarding their efforts to ensure patriotic education and appropriately providing the public at national parks, battlefields, monuments, museums, installations, landmarks, cemeteries, and other places important to American founding and American history as consistent with the applicable law. This is why my article on Substack is talking about the rewriting of history, folks. Upon request offer advice and recommendations to and support work to Task Force 250 in the United States. No, I'm not saying that word again. Commission regarding their plans to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the American independence and facilitate, advise upon, and promote private and civic activities. Yeah, that one bothers me. Private activities nationwide, and increase public knowledge and support of patriotic education surrounding the 250th anniversary of American independence as appropriate and consistent by applicable law. At this point, Trump, if you keep going the way you're going, you're going to fuck it up before we get there. Facilitate, advise, and promote. Oops. Facilitate, advise, and promote. What?
Or we're at, what is it, the education, or the
Oh, yeah.
Department of Education?
No, I went up one. I went down one more. Upon request, advise the. No, I said that. Advisory American
Yeah.
independence and facilitate and advise. Yeah, I was. I haven't got there.
Okay.
I got to this one. No, I did say that one.
Yeah,
Never mind.
you did.
Ugh, fucking. Sorry, they repeat themselves a lot. The Department of Education shall provide funding and administrative support for 1776 Commission to the extent permitted by law, subject to availability by appropriations. At least that's one thing they did right in this one. They said and availability of appropriations. At least they didn't just say take the money and figure it out later, which is what they did on so many of the other ones of these things. Members of the 1776 Commission shall serve without compensation, but as approved by the Department of Education shall be reimbursed for travel expenses, including per diem in lieu of subsistence, as authorized by law for persons serving intermittently in the government service. 5 U.S. Code 5701, 5707. Okay. For those of you who don't know what this means, that number is completely discretionary. They could be getting $50 a day, or they could be getting $50,000 a day.
Yep. All they have
And
to
I
do
have
is have
no
one
way
person,
of knowing based on this order.
and all they have to do is have one person sign off on that money, and they can get that daily.
And all I can say is, I'm not saying that is definitely what they're going to do, but Linda McMahon probably shits $50,000 out of her into her bidet every day. I'm gonna say I'm probably not too exaggeratory with that number.
Yeah,
It's probably not going to be cheap. So, insofar as Chapter 10 of Title 5, U.S. State Code, commonly referred to as Federal Advisory Committee Act, may apply to the 1776 Commission, any functions of the President under that Act, except that the reporting to Congress shall be performed by the Secretary of Education. See, this is a usurpment thing, except the reporting. Okay. Within the guidelines of the Administrator of General Services. Okay, so normally all the reports go to Congress, then to the President. Now it goes
to the
at least
president.
according to to Congress, except for the one thing that he can't get around because it's fucking auto-reported via computer entry. And they don't mention that, but that's the only reason that they aren't going to change that, is because they would have to completely cripple their internal infrastructure to do so.
It's not like they haven't done that before.
Yeah, but this one would actually hurt what they're trying to do. And even they're smart enough to have an IT guy go, yeah, don't do that. The 1776 Commission shall terminate 2 years from the date of this order unless extended by the President. Okay, so the reason I speed ran reading that and tried to keep the comments to the minimum is because Despy, have fun. Muzzle off. Because oh my god. All I can say is ew.
Yeah.
And fuck no.
Facilitate, advise upon, and promote private and civic activities nationwide. What private activities are they going to facilitate?
Yeah, all I can say is the first time I see a motherfucking Proud Boy doing some kind of reading hour, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah. Well, either that or the guy sitting next to him that's in a Klan hood.
God, I hate that that's not hyperbole anymore.
No, it's not. Not. And who knows, their audience might be full of tiki torches.
Okay, so yeah, this is really not good. It is the 1776 Commission, by the way, never functioned in the first place. It's not messing up the chair. Never functioned in the first place because of when he put it into to action. It never formed. It never put any policies into place. He literally did it so that when Biden came into office, he would have to repeal it, knowing that this would cost Biden political capital. because so many people would see the number 1776 and connect it to commission, and they would not think any deeper about what it was doing. They would think that he was anti-American, aka the stuff that our buddy Rich was talking about while he was here.
Nope.
The traps that they're trying to set. And I'm going to spring this trap. I'm not anti-American. I'm anti-maggot. You guys are fucking morons and you're trying to rewrite history. Fuck off with your German Nazi bullshit, because at least fucking Hitler had a brain. He did this better than you.
Yeah.
Ugh. Never thought I'd have to utter that goddamn phrase in my life.
Yeah. It's your turn for the bucket to go puking.
I'll just do some cola syrup.
Yeah, I just this whole thing. What is it like? Coordinate bi-weekly lectures, grounded in patriotic education principles, and then like upon request, like department agencies, like what is it? Regarding education is provided to the public at bi-weekly at national parks, battlefields, monuments, museums.
Oh, no, thank you for reminding me. Yes, that section. This means they're going to go in and all those lovely little placards that we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting in place, telling the history of these battlefields, that both in their glories and their faults, of the things we did right and the things that we did wrong, are going to be changed. They're going to try and change it so that it all reads as America was always the good guys.
Yeah.
You know, like your drunk uncle does at fucking Thanksgiving.
And also with this provides them grounds for doing protections for Confederate soldiers and Confederate statues at the same time.
Yep. So now that fucking absolute clusterfuck is over, we get into the less salacious parts. And honestly, I just put it up on screen for people. I don't even think we need to read through this section, because they didn't hide anything in here in reality. All the shit that they hid was in the previous section. This is basically just them naming departments. We do need to read section 6 though, and whichever one of you want to take up, I don't care, because it's short. It's only a few parts.
And
I'll take section 6.
Sure. But do leave that section 5 up for long enough so people can pause and read it.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All right. So I will read section 6. General provisions. A. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1. The authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or head thereof, or 2. The functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. C. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, agents, or any other person.
AKA, because we aren't taking the purse strings from these people. You can't sue us, you have to sue them. That's what this is. That is, we're taking everything but the one thing we cannot constitutionally take away from them, and therefore it's all their fault.
Yep.
Because they control the purse strings. We don't have control of this. So, by the way, he's been adding this to most of his executive orders, just so you know, and I can't be unfair to Trump. Biden did too. Slightly different wording, but same kind of bullshit.
Yep.
I know why they do it. I disagree with it. I wish we could have got a lawyer on to talk about it. I was unable to grab one of them. Maybe we'll be able to do it for one of the other live streams in the future. But there is precedential law that supposedly does good as to why this is a thing that's attached to executive orders since FDR. I don't necessarily agree with it. but I'm not a lawyer. Take it with a grain of salt. Now, which one of the two do we want to cover? Do we want to go with the accreditation or the HBCU?
I have to go in 20 minutes.
Well, they're quick read-throughs and comments. We're not gonna have to stop at sections because this was the real fuckery, which is why we ended up going over it first.
All right.
Because I wanted to make sure we got at least this one done, even if we have to do the other ones in a later episode.
Let's do HBCUs, and then what we'll do the other one if we have like a guest for next time, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so now we won't have to stop and comment on this one. We will just be scrolling and reading, maybe switching off here and there for whatever reason. But this one, to be fair, has actually been kind of celebrated by several HBCUs. I don't necessarily think they should be, because I think there's some nefarious wording in here, and we'll get to that as we read through it. No, stop messing with the chair. And I'll let one of you guys read because I'm about to go with the dog.
From what I read in there, there's a lot of flowery nothing burger language that they're using inside there that sounds good when you read it, but literally means that they don't have to do a damn thing.
Well, but they also hide. I forget exactly where it is, but it's basically, at least in my opinion, what they're going to build off of this executive order is essentially reverse discrimination policies to start forcing more white students into HBCUs.
Yeah.
I can't say that for certain because it's not perfectly in the wording of this.
Right.
But based on what they've done in the accreditation one that we'll have to cover later, and some of the other executive orders around education that they have done since taking office, it leads me to believe that for multiple reasons. Mainly because it was one of the things that, and this is where I'll leave off before we start the reading. It is one of the things that before Hegseth was left Fox and Friends, he was talking about it should be a primary goal of the Republican Party is to attack the completely discriminatory HBCUs and make them accept more people who are white. He said it on at least 3 occasions that I was able to find, while I was researching for this week. If he said it 3 times I can find, I bet there was more where the transcript just didn't catch it right.
Yep.
I mean, I can't say how many, so I'll just say the 3 that I found. All of them were in his last year, and then
we're
go
limited
on
on
with
time, so we better get going.
Yep. That's why I was saying I was finishing with that, and then we'll get to the reading.
Okay.
Whichever one you want to go, I go grab the pup.
Ancom, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I can go. Let's see here. Not that one. Here we go. All right. So this one's
so good.
shorter than the last one. So I'll cover sections 1 and 2 and just read them through. That way we don't have to spend too much time. Section 1, purpose. Historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, remain integral to American students' pursuit of prosperity and well-being, providing the pathway to a career and a better life. This order will continue the work begun during my first administration to elevate the value and impact of our nation's HBCUs as beacons of educational excellence and economic opportunity that serve as some of the best cultivators of tomorrow's leaders in business, government, academia, and the military. Section 2, policy. It is the policy of my administration to support HBCUs in advancing America's full potential, fostering more and better opportunities in higher education, providing the highest quality education, obtaining equal opportunities for participation in federal programs, ensuring college-educated Americans are empowered to advance the common good at home and abroad, and making our nation globally competitive, or more globally competitive.
Okay, see, then I'm glad you stopped there. This is the part I think they're sneaking in. And now, I will accept this could be one of the nothing burgers that you're talking about. But there's 2 other possibilities it could be. It could be the first one I mentioned. The other one it could be is the other way that a lot of my more melanated friends are fearing. Full segregation.
Yeah.
And this will now be pretty much the only schools that black students can get into.
Yeah.
Etc. And I don't know how much their fears are justified, because most of the people I've heard this from are not college faculty or work in any kind of field like that. So it could just be unfounded fears because it's Trump touching black shit and they know he's not exactly their friend.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really see anything but those three. It's either a nothing burger or bad in either direction.
Yeah, the issue, one of the main issues is that like HBCUs a lot of times are treated like private universities. So when it comes to actually like paying for classes and whatnot, the amount of money that you would normally pay at a state university would be a lot less than you'd normally pay that would if you went to an HBCU. So while black students going to HBCUs get a quality education, and they get an environment that is great for them, like with people that they identify with. The issue that you run into is they're actually paying a higher premium to go to school because they have to follow like a private like university setting.
Now I will play devil's advocate slightly before we continue the reading. They also get what they pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Correct.
education is slightly better than that state university as well. So, as much as I hate that it is
Mm-hmm.
done as the way Desby described,
Yes,
there is a slight advantage to it, as much as it shouldn't be the way it is, because they're not.
Also, the other thing I want to put in there is that also the networking for HBCUs tends to be a lot better. The people that you network with there is going to create longer lasting relationships in your professional career. That's probably going to be a lot better than you would going to a state university.
Well, and wider reaching,
Yes.
because usually HBCUs also interconnect more heavily
Correct.
than state universities, even within the same state.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to Spelman or Morehouse, it doesn't really matter. If you tell somebody that you went to Spelman and they're from Morehouse, they're more likely to network with you than someone saying that you went to like a state even the same state university.
Yeah, it's like in the UK saying Russell Group.
Yeah.
Now in America, you'll know this as Oxbridge, Oxford, and Cambridge. There's a lot more schools than that in the group, but in the UK it'd be Russell Group. Here we call it Ivy League or Pac-10 or Big Ten, depending on where we're talking. It's the same kind of thing that's happening in this case, where that layer of interconnectedness goes wider than your school.
Yes.
Whereas
Correct.
state universities generally only happen regionally,
Mm-hmm.
where if it is a school, it's not a school that's connected to you via being part of your state. It's one that's in your same town or in the neighboring town.
Yeah.
Okay. But
the only reason I wanted to bring that up is it is generally the case that students that are African American, ADOS, Black, tend to have a more difficult time with financing university than other students, and that's the only reason why I bring it up, that they had to pay more.
Oh yeah. Now the HBCUs are better at helping them get that funding too.
Correct. Very good.
It gets them a lot more money, but now reading through this, because this part's pretty quick, and as far I can't find anything hidden in it. Maybe one of you guys will. There is hereby established the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities. Initiative, because idiot. Housed in the executive office of the president and led by the executive director designated by the president. The initiative shall work with the executive departments and agencies and the president's board of advisors on historically Black universities established in Section 4 of this order, and private sector employees, educational associations, a philanthropic association, and other partners to increase the capacity of HBCUs to provide the highest quality education and increasing the numbers of students. The initiative shall have two primary missions: increasing the private sector role, including the role of private foundations in strengthening HBCUs through enhanced institutional planning and development and fiscal stability and financial management, upgrading institutional infrastructure, including the use of technology to ensure long-term viability in institutions, and providing professional development opportunities for HBCU students to help build America's workforce in technology, healthcare, manufacturing, finance, and other high-growth industries, and enhancing HBCU's capabilities to serve our nation's young adults by supporting implementation of HBCU Partners Act, Public Law 116-270, including facilitating the federal agency's plan to require by Section 4 of that act. Working to advance my administration's key priorities relating to promotion to innovation excellence through HBCUs in consultation with HBCU leaders, representation of students and alumni, fostering private sector initiatives with public and private and philanthropic partnerships to promote centers of academic research and public excellence in HBCUs, improving the availability and quality of information concerning HBCUs in the public policy sphere, sharing administrative and public programmatic best practices within the HBCU community, addressing efforts to promote student success and retention at the HBCU, including college advancement, affordability, college or degree attainment, campus modernization and infrastructure improvements, partnering with private entities and elementary and secondary education stakeholders to build a pipeline for students that may be interested in attending HBCUs to promote affordable degree attainment. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because, first of all, I just speed run a lot of it. I have one word for comment: heavy privatization.
Yeah,
aka more restrictive criteria to get in.
Yep.
Because those private donors are going to have fucking, shall we say, expectations.
Yep.
Demands are more likely to be accurate, but.
Yep.
Jesus
I just, and this is just me being like worst case scenario sort of thing. I really want to see how an HBCU teaches Black history after all of this goes through.
Oh, orders, yeah. Jesus Christ, it's gonna be fucking nightmare. They're gonna say that Rosa fucking.
If they are reduced to having to teach the lost cause at an HBCU, I'm gonna blow a fucking lid.
I hope somebody else does before you, to be honest. If the 6'4" white Minnesotan's the one who's blowing his lid first, we're in deeper shit than I thought.
Yeah.
Subsection E specifically, sharing administrative and programmatic best practices within the HBCU community. Who do you think gets to determine what those practices are?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's that, but more my reading of that as opposed to that, because I think the control is everywhere else. I think this is the standardization of HBCU, which has its own negative implications.
Yeah.
Is what this would lead to.
It's specifically, it doesn't specify who is setting those standards, because like standardization.
Well, no, it is the committee that's assigned in this. That's the whatchamacallit, the initiative. The initiative is designated by definition within the bill, or within the executive order.
Okay.
Which is that fucking person designated by Trump. So no, we know exactly who's doing it. And it's not good.
Did you read the Biden HBCU executive order that he had put in place before this? Like,
it wasn't great, but it was fucking worlds apart.
Yeah, there was different things where the federal government had like specific studies that they want done, and they were giving specific studies to HBCUs to study for the federal government. In this here, it's all about pushing all of that stuff to private entities and not giving the same grants that the federal government would normally give out for these HBCUs, and then making them compete with private entities to get those grants instead.
Well, I mean, yeah, Trump had to do his pump and dump on the entire U.S. economy with his bullshit.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm just like the thing with this is that like
it all
pushing
pisses me off.
Yeah, pushing all of these quote unquote anti DEI initiatives basically means that he's pushing for the HBCUs to go into the private market. But when they get into the private market to be able to do these studies, the companies can turn around and just say, "Hey, we're going to go with this other college instead."
Oh yeah, well, we're getting to the part that's insidious here, in my opinion. Encouraging states to provide the required state matching funds for 1890 land grant institutions.
Yeah.
I am not going to go off on the tangent I want to for this. Chat, just go look it up. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I think if they're hiding anything, that's it. Because that would also, because of that particular grant, would also allow for the segregation or forced desegregation of these schools, like I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But collaborating with the Department of Agriculture and state governments to establish a framework addressing barriers to accessing federal funding to ensure that HBCUs receive maximum funding to which they may be entitled. To those of you who don't understand that, they're going to expect that all of these HBCUs to have an agricultural department and start growing shit. For those of you who don't know your history, look at what happened after the end of the Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah.
Collaborating with agencies to improve the competitiveness of HBCUs for the other sources of federal research and development funding, and convening an annual White House summit on HBCUs to address matters related to the initiative's missions and functions. The heads of the agencies shall assist and provide information to the initiative consistent with applicable law as may be necessary to carry out the functions of the initiative. Each agency shall bear its own expenses of participating in the initiative. That last little bit's a fucking fun fuck you from Trump.
Yeah. Do you know that in the Biden one they actually paid them to do this here? This one here is basically Trump saying the people that were working on this before, that were getting paid, they're no longer able to get paid for this. This is all like volunteer.
Well, or that they're going to have to be paid through per diems that are black boxes that are, which would be just as bad, because then the bribery can start taking place. But
with that per diem, that also means that someone has to sign off on it. So you can have one person who could be of whatever race you want to choose, walk up to someone and say, "Hey, can I get the rubber stamp for this payment for this?" And them saying, "No, not this time." And you have somebody who is of another race go up and say, "Hey, I need a rubber stamp for this payment here," and them say, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so if you want, I'll continue reading because it's just more wordy
Keep
bullshit. But okay, so the President's Board of Advisors on HBCU. There's establishment of the Department of Education, the President's Board of Advisors on HBCUs. Board herein. The board shall fulfill the mission and functions established by, shall have the structure set forth in, and shall in all other respects be subject to provisions by Section 5 of the HBCU Partners Act. God damn it. The board shall include respectives of the variety of sectors such as philanthropy, education, business, finance, entrepreneurship, innovation, and private foundation, and current HBCU presidents. The board shall advise the president through the initiative on matters set forth by Section 5C of the HBCU Partners Act, 20 U.S.C. 163 EC, which is the same, different from the other one, which was subsection E in the other one. I should have read it.
Move your cursor.
The Department of Education shall provide funding and administrative support for the board consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations insofar Chapter 10 of Title 5 U.S. States Code, commonly referred to as Federal Advisory Committee Act, may apply to the board. Any functions of the president under that act, except for those in Section 6 and Section 14 of the act, shall be performed by the Secretary of Education, fuck you, McMahon, in accordance with the guidelines issued by the Administrator of the General Services. Sorry, I can't resist. She's such a fucking... Accountability and implementation. The executive director of the initiative shall submit an annual progress report to the president summarizing the federal government's impact on HBCUs and providing recommendations for improvement. Oh,
Move your cursor.
revocation. Is it really that noticeable? Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, it's literally got
I know.
the thing like covering up a section.
I know, but I can't see how big it is on your screen. To me, my cursor is like a pinprick.
Yeah.
Revocations. Executive Order 14041 of September 3rd, 2021. White House Initiative on the Advancement of Education Equality. Advancing equity, excellence, and the economic opportunity through historically black colleges and universities hereby revoked. Within 14 days of the date of this order, the administrator and the Environmental Protection Agency shall terminate the historically black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions advisory council.
Damn.
And just to be clear of what that is, because I needed to go look it up, and I had to go to the Wayback Machine for this because it's already been removed from the EPA's website. The EPA established the Historically Black Colleges and Universities and Minority Serving Institutions Advisory Council, the HBCU MSIAC, in 2023 to provide independent advice and recommendations to the administrator on how to increase the EPA's efforts to leverage the expertise within historically black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions, and to provide opportunities to those to help diversify the agency's workforce and nurture the next generation of environmental leaders. So basically, they're saying that the people who are probably, highly knowledgeable about environmental protection, those who have been, dealing with environmental and agricultural problems for a century and a half, if not more, might be the people that you want to consult for this sort of activity. And Trump is saying, yeah, we're getting rid of that.
And to sum it up quicker, because Despy's on a time crunch, for those of you who don't understand this is where most of our watershed research comes from out of our universities. And for those of you who don't understand what a watershed is within the United States, go look it up. Sorry for the nightmares.
Yeah, not to mention, like, if we're talking about demographically speaking, inside the United States, people that tend to be in communities that are predominantly black tend to have different, issues as it pertains to pollution and other aspects of environmental aspects that happen within their community. So the people that would be on this advisory board that would have not only the knowledge of what the effects are, they also have the experience from being in communities that would have been affected by this at the same time, or at least had the social awareness to know people from the communities that would have been affected by this as well.
Well, and it's also the reason I'll point back to watersheds yet again, because it also affects all of that.
Mm-hmm.
If we fuck up our watersheds, we will desert the entire country.
Yep.
That's not being hyperbolic.
Yep.
That's not being alarmist. If we fuck up the wrong aquifer at the wrong time, we can literally cause a desert to form over the next 20 years that would cover the same area as the Mojave. Because according to all the geological and paleogeological evidence we have, it was a single magnitude 7 earthquake along a fault line in that region that collapsed the aquifer and created that desert in the first place.
Yeah. Well,
we would just be doing it artificially.
No, we kind of did that to, it kind of happened to Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl.
Almost. We got really close. Thankfully, we didn't completely destroy the watershed. We just killed all the upper aquifers, but still, this is not good. Okay, So general provisions, because this is simple shit. For the purposes of this order, HBCUs shall mean the institutions listed in 34 CFR 608.2 Nothing in this order shall be construed or impaired to otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency and the head thereof, the function of director of office of management and budget relating to budgetary administrator. It's the same shit. Don't sue us. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Slightly different wording again. And I'm just going to point out the first one we read, I copied that text directly from the White House's website. Everything that was available. His signature isn't on it, nor the date on it. Going back to close out, to touch on what you and Ancom and Rich all pointed to, and I just fully agreed with because you guys got there first. That one was written a long time ago.
Yep.
This one's more recent.
Yep.
And the reason I'll point you to this one being more recent is, first of all, it has particular relevance to things that were done in January, because of certain grants that were awarded to these universities under the Biden administration when they were still in office. It has to do specifically with things that happened in February, which was legacy policy things coming into fruition that basically Trump hadn't been able to cancel yet.
Mm-hmm.
This one is written beyond all of the racial shit that we can imply, and we probably should have other people on to talk about more extensively. This one is a giant fuck you to Biden.
Yep.
This is, we're going to tear everything down that you ever touched. That's all this is. Like, yep. I'm sure there's the other shit too, but like, let's just say all that other shit it is alarmism. At the very least, that's what this is. This is Augustus coming in after fucking Julius, and like revoking some of the things that Julius did, even though he considered him a fucking god.
Yep.
And this is the inverse, because he fucking hates Biden, but this is him tearing down the institution and creating something of his own.
Yep.
And his version, at least in my opinion, is probably going to be bad, and it will either lead to the end of the HBCUs by the forced desegregation, or, if my POC friends are correct, by resegregating this into being the only universities POC students can get into at all.
Yep.
And then when that happens, and this is my add to that portion, then we have to deal with a whole new form of racism again.
Yep. Because
what happens when we finite the schools that POCs can go to? Number of seats are now being challenged. And who's going to be chosen for HBCUs? Probably not the Latinos.
Yep.
It's probably not the Asians.
Right.
So then all of these other things that they're doing come in, and it allows them to come in and do federal control by saying you're violating all these orders.
Yep.
That's my personal opinion. I don't know if Trump's going to do this. I know for a fact it's what the Heritage Foundation wants done, because they put it in writing.
All I'm going to say is what this basically does is it squeezes money from them. And I'm not saying that HBCUs don't have money, but they are limited in the funds that they do have.
And the other thing is let's just say, like, because people don't realize this, because these are not true private universities. Let's say I donate. Let's say I'm fucking, Bill Gates. I donate $1 billion to one of these schools.
Mm-hmm.
They are not free to do with that money what they please.
Correct.
Even though it came from a private donation. They are still hamstrung by all these regulations and shit. So, like, it's squeezing money out of them and their students and their vendors and everybody else along the way.
Yep.
And, like, at the very least, this is not good, because that level of control He is setting them into a pit for failure so that when they fail, he can come in and usurp control like he's currently trying to do with a few universities in the Northeast.
Yep.
So, for those of you who are celebrating this, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm being an alarmist. I hope I'm seeing boogeymen in the corner on this one. Maybe you guys are smarter than me on the law, and there's something in here that you can totally use to fuck Trump over. I don't fucking know. I don't understand why you're celebrating it, because this is some Orwellian shit, in my opinion.
Correct. Yep.
Anything you guys want to add before we end? Because I know that you have to head out in a minute.
Yeah.
So
All
even
I'm
if
just
we
going to say
keep going
is that
over on my channel.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is that if you read the Biden executive order and you like compared the two of them, like line for line and whatnot, you would see that there's a lot of like money and grants that are actually given to HBCUs in the Biden executive order, and in this one here, it's all about pushing everything to the private sector with no responsibility on the federal government to even help. Even enforce anything that gets into the private sector. So basically is that we're going to take money and then we're going to ask people if they'd rather have you.
Yeah, it's and I did the reason I didn't compare the two is because I knew we would just not have the time. Like we'd have to plan an 8-hour stream to cover all three of these with their countermanding secondaries from Biden that these things are overriding.
Yep.
Hell, we're looking at what, 3 hours now almost on this, and we only got through 2 of them.
Yep.
And the second one was pretty easy to get through compared to the first.
Yeah.
Now that being said, maybe another day we'll get somebody like Joe or Fanatic on to talk about this.
I could. I have somebody that's a teacher at an HBCU that I could have come in and talk about this.
That would work too. I was thinking availability on the other two is probably easier than your professor friend. Right. But if we could do that, we will definitely do that for the future for you guys in chat. Because I'm reading this purely from a legal, historical perspective. I am comparing this to the practices of our country in the past. I'm comparing it to other countries that have undergone similar fascist takeovers, and these line up way too much with people like Pinochet and Hitler, and even some of the fucking more authoritarian douchebags on my side like Stalin and Mao. This is some scary shit. Like, if my side was doing this, I'd be just as much fucking pissed. I would be just as much sitting here screaming from the rooftops, this has got to stop. And this is not good. This is the kind of shit that leads to re-education camps, people.
And even though I have, I said like the Biden executive order is a lot better than this here, you can ask these two how much I like Biden.
And we're of similar vein. None of us like that.
No, I'm just saying, like anybody out there trying to call me a Biden stan, you know me very little.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I will own that. I was a Biden stan, and then I was a Harris stan, because they were the only two that had a fucking chance,
right,
of getting elected over this guy. Not because I liked him, not because I thought they were good people, not because I agreed with all of their policy, but because I knew this shit was coming.
Yeah. Because
they told us in black and white on fucking paper that this shit was coming. And nobody wanted to listen.
Yeah.
I didn't like Biden. He was a piece of scum. Like, literal piece of shit human being. Do I believe he was a kitty diddler like the right thinks? No. Do I believe he was fucking weird and creepy in all kinds of other ways?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Do I believe all the fucking horrible shit about him? A fair bit of it.
Well, you don't have to.
He was still better than this garbage.
You don't have to believe any of it. All you have to do is fucking read his votes and his bill proposals from when he was in.
Well, no, I'm talking the stuff outside of office, like all the shit they accuse of. No, but I'm just going by like, let's just, for the normie righties who may or may not watch this and get this far, which God knows how many of them will get 3 hours in.
I'd
But
applaud them if they got 5, like within the first 3 minutes.
no, I agree. But if you're still here, or if you're trying to watch this on highlights because somebody ends up clipping it, this is not normal. These are things that you have to be freaked out about. This is the kind of thing that I don't think you really realize the implications of, because outside of uber nerds and poli-sci people, this is things that are like missed and like you're not taught about, first for many reasons, and we'll do another education stream on those things because they're getting so much worse now. But when you think about this, like right or left, this should scare the shit out of you people. This is the kind of shit that leads to wars. This is the kind of shit that leads to like true secession. Not, oh, we have a secession and we have a civil war, which would be horrible, and then a reunification. I'm talking like actual balkanization of the United States. And I don't know about you, I'd rather not see the American experiment end because of a fucking tangerine tyrant. Oh, I think we're better than that. Yeah, we have a lot of faults, a lot of fucking horrors in our past. I think we deserve a little bit better of an end than a clown. And I think you should think that too. Do you honestly think that the guys that you supported before him, the Romneys, the McCains, that they would have done any of this bullshit? I fucking hated some of those people. The Dick Cheneys.
Yeah, Cheney.
We don't even have to talk about his daughter, Dick. One of the biggest pieces of shit in DC history. Dick is rolling over in this shit. Hence why he and his daughter are so advocately against these people. Because even they, the staunchest of the staunch right-wingers, the uber arch neocons, can't stomach fascists. And I don't understand how you have lost the plot enough to think that this is actually a good thing. Fascism, no matter if your side's the one who takes up the tool of it, will always lead to harming its own people too. And it's inevitable. Every fascist dictatorship and every fascist country that has ever existed did this. Are you sure all your family's safe? Are you sure that your kid isn't in the closet? Think about the dangers that these things are putting. Think about what it's going to be like for your kids and grandkids if they can't get an education because of all of this funding being dried up and their closest school is a 5-hour bus ride away. Do you have the time to become a homeschool teacher? Does your community have the money to pay you to teach everybody in the community's kids? Your side or not, this should scare the shit out of you. I would be terrified if Harris had done the same.
Hey, and you don't even have to think about it in that way. Just think about it this way: if they try to overhaul the USPS, if you live in a rural area, they may just close your post office because you're not bringing in quote unquote enough revenue. Whereas like the United States guarantees a certain like a number of post offices for people to have access. So you could be somebody that lives in like rural Wyoming or rural Montana, and the closest post office to you is going to be 6, 7, 8 hours.
Or let's just take this one in there. For all of you who are rural, as he's describing, and do the post box as opposed to the rural mail carriage. When that PO box costs $1,000 a month.
Yep. Or
you
more.
have the ability to pay for that?
or more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm being realistic. It might be more in the future if it isn't stopped, but they won't start out with a gouge. They can't. They lose their base if they fucking try to gouge too quickly.
Right.
But $1,000, that's realistic because you're gonna have 150 farmers fighting for fucking 50 boxes.
Yep. And can you imagine what is it like? Or you have to what is it, pay based on like mail delivery, like you have mail delivered to your house.
You're paying for fucking Brown or FedEx or DHS to bring it to you. And now, I don't know about you, I wouldn't want to see what 2,000 fucking pounds of seed costs via FedEx.
Yeah. Yeah. That ain't gonna be pretty.
I've never been a farmer, but I understand math.
Yeah.
That's not going to be good.
Yeah, especially if you live out like near like outside like Cheyenne or something like that. There's not even going to be a close enough rail for somebody to get to you to bring something in that they literally would have to go to like someplace like what is it
Bozeman.
Yeah.
You'd have to truck it all the way from Bozeman.
Right. And then
because that'd be the closest rail spur.
Right. So you're talking like not only is your delivery going to be take a lot of time, is that it's going to be super expensive to get it directly to your house.
If it shows up worth taking.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Because I don't know how often this happens, and I've seen anecdotal evidence of it happening, but if you let seed sit too long, it starts growing in the fucking bag.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how much it all depends on how much moisture you actually have like in the air or in the bag that you have or whatnot.
Okay, fair.
No, but I mean like usually like the majority of seeds are like so dry to the point that the second you add any moisture to them, they immediately start to grow. So, if you're setting on a wet bag and that wet bag is set a little too long, shit'll start growing inside there, no problem.
And I'm not sure your driller can run fucking sod mat through it. Oh, fucking whatever you're trying to grow.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I've never been a farmer. I mean, I've done like small scale hobby shit, but farmers, how much you want to be holding a canvas bag at your hip, ripping apart the fucking seeds that have turned into a sapling mat of sod, walking through your fields, planting it by hand over your 100 hectares?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the average size farm in America. I don't know about you. 100 hectares sounds like a lot of fucking walking to me.
Yep.
How wide are rows, Despy? You were a farmer. I did hobby shit.
Well, it depends on it all depends on what you're planting, because like with the new modified like corn and modified soybeans, the distance between them is going to be vastly different.
Okay, let's just go non-GMO crops because it's the only thing I fucking know anything about.
Well,
as far as like
there's going to be nobody out there that's going to be planting non-GMO crops unless they're going to be a hobby farmist. Unless they're going to be a hobby farmist.
Or organic, like specifically large organic farms.
Well, no, I was thinking, I knew corn was pretty much all GMO, but I'm thinking like the kohlrabi, the soy, the lectins,
but I mean, I addressed this in the video before, but we're talking about like something that's going to be like less than 1.8% of like what we grow in the United States. Like it's a minuscule amount. It really is. And I'm talking about, and that's just that right there is the amount of corn that we grow that's like designed for human consumption, and then there's an even tinier subset of that that's going to be organic.
Well, no, I wasn't talking just corn. Like I said, that's why I was bringing up the other stuff that I know.
Yeah.
Or at least last time I checked, there was no GMO version for them to grow.
What?
Like kohlrabi, things like that. Kohlrabi, soy lectin.
Yeah,
these are now I'm sure.
Honestly,
kind of stuff. I know we grow a crap ton of.
I'm going to tell you that I have to look for that stuff just for the simple fact that there isn't somebody that's going to be growing that en masse inside the United States. Like, it's literally going to be like all, I'm telling you right now, like when you're talking about crops like that, like the majority of our onions that we get all come from Mexico. Like the places that would normally grow onions in the United States, like they don't grow them there anymore. We literally get them all from Mexico because of that. So if we're talking about kohlrabies are probably going to be coming from someplace like Mexico or Canada, because we don't grow that stuff here.
The reason I brought up the two I did is at least kohlrabi and soy.
Yeah.
That I know we grow a shit ton of here in Arkansas. Same with rice.
Okay.
It's like, yeah. Now, I don't know how much of it we eat.
Right.
Now, that part you may still be right. We still may be exporting all of it. But I know we grow a crap ton of soy and kohlrabi here.
Yeah.
And we grow, what's the other one? Sorghum is the other one that we grow a lot of here.
So sorghum we do use here because that's put in feed meal for animals, if I'm not mistaken.
And is made into molasses, is made into a bunch of other
cereals.
Sorghum.
It's a cereal.
Yeah. It's multi-useful.
Right. We have actually grown sorghum before, sorghum and milo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've grown sorghum as a ground cover in a non-garden like flower bed because it's really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never grown it for food. Because we were spraying it with all the pesticides.
I'm talking like we did it like on our farm, like we did that as a rotation crop.
Well, yeah, but you were selling it. You weren't just burning
we're not making no like black strap molasses from it or something like that.
Well, no, I didn't think you were making that. I figured you were selling it to somebody.
Right, we were selling it. We were selling it. We're not growing it to eat. Yeah. No.
Well, no, because some people, and this is, and I've seen this farmers here, and I don't know why they do it. Maybe you can tell me. Their cover crop they don't sell; they till it in or burn it.
Yeah.
Onto the. I don't understand it. Like, to me, that seems counterproductive.
So it could be
when they're using ditch water to irrigate, so they're getting like the duck waste and all that shit to bring back the nitrates and all that.
Right. So some of it has to do with the fact that like there's certain nutrients in that crop that is specific to like the next generation of crop that they're going to be growing on the field there. And the thing is that sometimes the crop that you're going to use to your cover crop for that year is going to be something that the cost it's going to take you to actually take and like cut it, sell it, and procure it before you're actually going to take it to the mill is not going to allow you to even break even.
And you might not necessarily have the nutrition.
Well, yeah, and you might not necessarily even have like the market available to go sell it right away. So you might be stuck selling to a market that's going to like put you at an extreme disadvantage compared to other people. So you
I don't know the market well enough here.
And you may actually be sitting on it for a while because like a lot of times what it's going to happen is that you're going to grow either dent corn or you're going to be growing like sweet corn or whatnot. Like, well, sweet corn's for human consumption, but like feed corn or whatnot, and then you're gonna literally keep it inside a like a dehydrating like bin, like a massive like not a silo but like a bin or whatnot, and you're just gonna keep it there. You dry it out, and you're literally gonna try and keep it and set it there as long as you possibly can until the market is ready to sell it. Then you're going to load it up and then take it and sell it at that point. And the thing is that a lot of times they don't necessarily have the infrastructure on the farm to keep, let's just say, sorghum, like after you've harvested it inside those bins, because the bins are more designed for, let's say, corn or soybeans, because that's like their major.
Well, yeah, sorghum's a crop they grow here like for profit. I know that much. I don't. What I was going to say, the cover crop that I've seen, at least the one that like I've walked into the field and like touched so I can identify it, because you know how hard it is to identify some of this shit from the road. They were growing barley, and then they would drag like a burning tire through the field and burn it.
Yep. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Barley will grow anywhere, and barley is another thing that it has like you can get 2 to 3 grow cycles out of it. So the thing is, like throughout the year, because it has like a really fast like germination process and whatnot. So what people will do is they'll finish a year and then they'll try and throw barley directly on there and then burn it by the end of the year, so that they could take and the next year when they go to grow again, they're ready to go and they have all the nutrients.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And one of the reasons why they use barley, rye, and wheat is because the growing period for that is so short that you can actually sometimes get it to a point where you can use it to just plow it under. Like, it's not going to be worth a damn. Like, it's going to be fully grown, but the berries are not going to be worth a damn, because like a lot of times they'll grow it too late for winter wheat, but it'll be perfect for them to just plow under or burn it. And then
they minimize the water that they use to grow it, because it's a cover crop, so they're minimally invested. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I just thought the burn was, like, honestly, because I know burn can add nutrients.
It does.
When they're burning essentially half crop, because these things are never like full grown. I didn't think it could add enough, especially when they're doing it by dragging a piece of burning rubber around. To light the big ass, because I mean these fields are huge. If you set one corner on fire, you no guarantee you'd clear the whole field. They have to light it in multiple places. So I get that, but they're dragging around burning rubber. I would think that anything that they would get from nutrients would be offset by the pollutants they're putting in the ground doing this practice. Because the other ones that do it with gas, and you and I both know the fucking hydrocarbons of fucking putting diesel. Right. Especially fucking farm grade diesel and burning it.
Well, unless it's farm grade biodiesel.
No, even then it still has the same hydrocarbon problem. But I know what you mean.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. It's like I thought, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just me going, pollutant bad, and I'm not looking at the data close enough to figure this out. But it seems like, at least with that practice, as opposed to the old way, the way we used to do it was we drag the burning brush behind the tractor. Yeah, you go out and cut some tree off your farm or something, let it dry out and burn it. Yeah. I thought they were basically being lazy, because it gave them an excuse to go out and drive with a burning tire in their four-wheeler.
Well, the other thing is that, like, getting rid of tires can be expensive.
I mean, that's only if you're stupid. It's called ram earth, motherfucker. It could be your next wall for your next fucking building.
I know.
I'm sorry. That's my green side coming out. I'm sorry, conservatives. I'll put my green side away.
I'm just saying.
But for those of you righties who are still around, who are farmers, stop burning your tires. Get some dirt, pack it full, make a wall, and watch how hard it is to knock that fucking wall down.
Now, you heard him.
And once you get it,
stop burning your tires where he can see you.
No, I don't even mean that, but I just mean, like, imagine how much you'd save. Because I know, like, these farm buildings you guys construct aren't fucking cheap. But imagine being able to save the first, like, 8 foot of that 20-foot tall building, doing a ram earth surround wall, and then just being able to stick build the last 12 feet.
Yeah.
You'd be able to save so much fucking money. So much money compared to these big fucking, like, manufactured metal buildings and shit.
Yeah, well, a lot of that has to do with like the insulation they put in those and the energy efficiency. Like, it's, I understand. I understand where you're coming from with it being a green practice, but I also know...
but even this, I can beat the insulation factor of any of those metal buildings with a ram earth wall.
I understand that, but the thing is that like when you're looking at like resale value and you're looking at all of these other things here like that, that's where you run into it, because you're looking at the equity of your farm over the practicality of using the material that you're talking about.
Farmers, look at me. Your farm is not an investment property.
It is.
This is not your rental home. Stop thinking about it like that. Because that's how we're getting all the corporate farmers taking over, and we're losing the farming knowledge, and why your kids are more likely to go work for Tyson on the same fucking farm they grew up on than for you.
Hey,
Teach your kids how to farm properly and treat your fucking land properly, and maybe we can save farming in this country for another couple generations, assholes.
But here's the thing, like, and this is me playing the other side. It's smart how they're doing it in the sense that if you know some of this crap is coming, where you're going to lose your livelihood, at least you're going to get top dollar for it. And that's probably why they're doing it.
The problem is I could argue with you on that only because of how long the practice has been going on, because they started this metal building non-steward of the land practice when they were at their biggest boom.
Yeah.
So it was them trying to capitalize the most as opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if this was a recent acquisition of like behavior, I would completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But this was them trying to maximize their profit, which you and I both know, because you and I both saw too many goddamn farmers sell out to corporate for fucking $1.50 on the dollar, because the corporates will pay over fucking market value.
Yep.
Doing it so that they can get exactly this bullshit in place.
Yep.
Because the corporates don't care if they kill the land. They'll just move to a different country and go kill their fucking country. That's what they've done for the last 85 years since this shit started. And Despy can back me up on this, because you guys used to hate these assholes.
Yeah.
You stop being Ferengi.
You're talking.
This is not.
You're talking 7 to 10 years of fertigation before that land is actually usable again.
Yeah, like seriously, this is not the Ferengi meme of fucking, I don't want to stop the exploitation, I want to become the exploiter. You guys used to hate these people because they were ruining your land and killing your fucking hometowns. Look at places like fucking Wiener, fucking Arkansas. This is a town that has like fucking 200 people in it, and it's mainly a giant fucking corporate farm.
Yep.
Or places like fucking, what's that place? Terre Haute, which used to be lots of family farms and some of the best fucking cattle ranching in the Midwest area.
Well,
look at what farms are there now.
Don't get me started on Tyson, and not necessarily Tyson, but just the corporate chicken farm and how that morphed from what it used to be to what it is now.
Yeah, like, guys, we're on your side. We want you to have a sustainable living. We want you to fucking get the subsidies from the government that you're supposed to be getting to help us like grow the food that helps us fucking survive. All the things you say you want. That's what the left wants for you. Mm-hmm. Yes, I know some of the Democrats were dickheads, but not all of them.
Right. Yeah. I personally want the government to make every public sector thing that requires food in any way, shape, or form has to be sourced domestically.
I disagree with that, because I would rather have the food diversity, but primarily domestically, I could agree with.
Well, what I'm saying with
meaning
that
greater
is,
than 51%.
Right.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that if a farmer grows it here, we buy it here.
I would agree with that.
If they don't grow it here, like, because they can't, whether it's like pineapples or bananas or something,
or we just don't do it because it's bad for the land here, etc.
Correct.
Yeah, there's tens of thousands of reasons.
All I'm saying is that, like, if we're creating a school lunch program, I better see like 95% of the stuff that's served at that school come from an American farmer.
I disagree with the
I don't give
high
a damn
percentage.
If you disagree with that.
I know I disagree with the high percentage, but agree with the overall point. I would say greater than 50%, because there are some things that, to maintain like the proper economy within the country, we do need to have like global trade within these. But I agree with majority.
I just said 95% because you can get the cardboard for the milk carton from some other place, the plastic for the straw for that as well from some other place. Hey, there are kids that eat those, okay? They exist.
No, I'm more talking about, for example, I would like a kid Alaska or Minnesota to be able to eat lychee.
Yeah.
We grow some of that here in the States. But if we had to grow enough to meet the demands for like school lunches,
yeah,
the entire state of Florida would be a lychee farm.
yeah, we're not trying to create the raisin cartel anymore. That's a
yeah. That's all I'm getting at. Is like there are certain things that we aren't going to hit the right volume.
Right.
We aren't, or we need it for the economic trade value of trading it to Canada.
What I would say is that whoever's making lychees here, all of them lychees are going to be bought by the federal government before we bring any in from
that
from
part I
country.
could agree with, because then the foreign government can use part of that with the trade deals with other countries like I'm describing, and because that part, then at least the American farmer is getting paid. That I can agree with. Yep. And we can still do exactly what I'm talking about. It's just one extra step and protects our economy.
Well, my main thing is with it is that I want the federal government to set the tone for the price of all of these different items here, so that if companies inside the United States want to get domestic stuff, they're basically have to compete with the government price for it.
Well, that, and it would how to put it, it wouldn't completely nullify the aspect of gouging, but it would highly de-incentivize it.
Yep.
Because if the government ever started to follow suit, the government would very quickly price itself out of its own market, and therefore the government, because the government would more than likely, I know it's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely that anybody but the government would be a bigger purchaser.
Yeah.
Since they would be the largest purchaser, since they would be highly de-incentivized from doing the gouging, they would probably set the tone. It's not necessary. I mean, we've seen some other countries try this where it failed, like in South Korea, like in China. But it could, because a lot of other countries that tried this were successful with it. So
yeah.
Now that's the thing. Not any one policy from any country is going to work in any other country. Hell, not even one region within one country works for the whole country all the time. So we're going to have to look at this multifaceted. And farmers, now that we've gone off on this education tangent because of the highly connecting to agriculture. Well, no, you're right. All of this connects to education.
Yeah.
How many schools back when you and I were kids? I'm a little bit older than you, but not much older. Were there ag farms or at least little ag greenhouses because that was something we wanted our kids to learn. Yep. Even if it was just so that they could grow a home herb garden, we wanted them to have the knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it was common for us to plant a half acre every year
for you
anyway. So.
Well, yeah, for you. But I'm talking like for the kids like me who grew up in Detroit. We had a little greenhouse. Yeah, we were growing daisies and violets and like tulips and shit. But like learning how to grow shit, learning how to like respect the land around you, that's an important thing for kids to learn, because it's one less thing we have to pay for later. Garbage pickup from all the kids throwing shit out the windows. Another thing we have to pay less when we don't have to do like pay the EPA to do as much because the people are doing it. Yeah. Like these practices are meant to save money. Yes, they cost money to begin with, but they're meant to save us money in the long run, because then when we help everybody understand that, hey, if you keep polluting the ground and the air around you, eventually we don't even have to be fucking selfless. You, completely selfish, fucking self-motivated. Do you want to be able to breathe when you're 80, asshole?
Yeah. Well, this is one of those things why I think freedom gardens were a good thing, because it created a culture of creating your own garden.
And while I disagreed with a lot of the other messaging around it, 100% agree with you. Yep. Because unfortunately it was co-opted by some dickhead libertarians, but the overall teach people to grow was a good thing, because when you know how to grow, hey, if I keep pouring out my motor oil on my fucking front lawn, eventually I'm going to have dirt.
Yeah.
you figure that shit out.
Inert dirt. Not just any dirt. Inert dirt.
Yeah, dirt that the only thing that's going to grow in it is that weed that just you couldn't kill with the best Roundup on the market.
Right.
Like, this all connects back to the education, and the reason I say it does is because they even mentioned the agricultural portion in the previous K through 12. That used to be a standard portion, and Biden was trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
Poorly. Now, here's the thing. I will grant the GOP this. His answer was not going to work.
Yeah.
But he was fucking trying instead of just butchering shit with a machete.
Well.
Or a chainsaw, as it were.
I mean, it was kind of a rusty butcher knife is what he was using, but... At least it wasn't a machete.
But it was a rusty butcher knife while he was trying to perform surgery in a triage situation while being demented. Yeah. As opposed to, I'm going to slash and burn it because I don't like it because somebody with a D next to their name had anything to do with it.
Right.
If they had said, hey, we're going to get rid of this and replace it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you have to go.
Yeah.
And we'll end on that. Like, if guys, for the righties who are watching, expect them to replace it with something of at least equal value. Okay, fine. You don't like the way we worded shit. You don't like the way that Biden did this or did that. Anything that you get rid of, at least replace it with something of equal value. You're literally getting rid of services that you yourself rely on and don't realize it.
Yep. Well, with that said, that's a good
closing note.
I am Desperado Sensei.
Jack.
And I've been Income.
And this has been Five Old Fogies Are Angry. We had 4 of us today. The 5th one is probably sleeping. So we will catch you next time.
Well, we started at 5 a.m. for him. I can give him a pass.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time, and take care. Bye-bye.